Those who don't require a chair can come and have a seat.
Shall we start?
Ji, please.
Okay, take it. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Jazakallah for joining. We'll start the meeting with the recitation of Holy Quran. I request respected Asim Ansari Sahab to recite a portion of the Holy Quran and translation.
Assalamu alaikum. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الرسول بلغ ما أنزل إليك من ربك وإن لم تفعل فما بلغت رسالته والله يعصمك من الناس إن الله لا يهدي القوم الكافرين. O Messenger, convey to the people what has been revealed to thee from thy Lord. And if thou do it not, thou hast not conveyed his message at all. And Allah will protect thee from men. Surely Allah guides not the disbelieving people.
Jazakallah Ansari Sahab. So I'd like to do a dua also, please. Murabi Sahab, lead us in dua.
Please join me in silent prayer. Hameed.
Jazakallah. Once again, Jazakallah for all of you who are present in person. And we have somewhere around 40 logins on Zoom as well. The purpose of today's meeting is to basically give you an opportunity to learn about what the Majlis Shura that met in April of this year, discussion about Tabligh, Rishtanata, and finance. So we have our three secretaries. Tabligh secretary is Ghulam Rabi Sahab. He's going to go over his Tabligh Shura implementation plan. Next, we will request Dr. Taha Ahmed Sahab about Rishtanata. And then finally, Secretary Finance Ramzan Jatala Sahab is going to go over the finance department report and some updates about the finance in the LA Jama'at. So because of the shortage of time, we'll get right into it. I'm requesting Ghulam Rabi Sahab to kindly come.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. There are multiple directions came from Huzur regarding Tabligh, and the missionaries also met recently, Rabi Sahab, and we were also requested to form a Tabligh committee for every Jama'at. Work with Lajna, Ansar, Khuddam, and that meeting also took place. So I'll request, after my short introduction, the plan that we have formulated for LA, Murbi Sahib is going to basically talk about that plan, and that way, because he's the head of that committee, that will make a lot of sense for us, what needs to do, the action item, right? We can go about the theories, but mainly if we go about the action item. The verse that is recited, this is the verse Khalifatul Masih Rabi often quoted. The verse I just found out from the research that it was revealed to Holy Prophet ﷺ multiple times, 4 or 5 times, both in Medina and Mecca. And this tells you the importance of conveying the message. Tabligh is convey, not convert. We often stop doing it thinking that we don't have enough knowledge to convert. That's going to happen with time, with the grace of Allah. So our goal is to follow the directions that Huzur has given us what we can work together as a united body and implement it on a regular basis. And we'll talk about, how to implement that. A couple of things just to point out about Tabligh. It's everybody's responsibilities. It's men, women, children. Children are also encouraged to do Tabligh. So why? This is something you should ask. Unless you know why we are doing it, people always will not end up doing it, right? Why? Chanda, we know, we have to run the organization. This is an opportunity for you also to train yourself, to know who you are. Many of you are born into Ahmadiyyat, may not sometimes know some of the details. The moment you're presenting yourself to others, inviting others, it gives you two opportunities to practice what you preach, and only then conversion happens because people see that in you. And the second thing, when you're telling others, if they ask you a question you don't know, you'll come and find out. You have the resources, you'll find out. So this will be a source of continuous progress for your spirituality, right? That's why Huzur constantly asks us. If the society, imagine in Pakistan, there was a gentleman who recently wanted to know about Ahmadiyyat in Pakistan. He couldn't find a resource to find. If nobody would talk to him, our Jama'at website is banned. Imagine compared to that in USA, we have that opportunity. Just keep that in mind, that our opportunity to convey the message is something we should take and utilize. Huzur has given us multiple targets. One of them is reaching out to 10%, and Rabbi Sahib is going to talk about it. I'm just going to end you with this thought, and I hope that you will utilize. Many of you there, active dying who are doing things. Many of you are doing things on an individual basis. Huzur's direction is to work unitedly together. Only then we can reach out to a significant portion of this, Southern California population, 18 million. I think our target will be at least, 1.8 million population. We cannot do that individually. So keep that in mind as you listen to the plan. Rabbi Sahib is going to say, and take out those action items. What is 1, 2 things that individually you can do, your children can do, the women and the men, all they can do to implement that. With that being said, Rabbi Sahib.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Jazakallah Ghulam Rabbi Sahib. As you know, he is our local secretary Tabligh, and alhamdulillah, we have 5 halkas in our Jama'at here. And each halka also has a secretary Tabligh. And so in this way, there's a wider group that is responsible for making sure that we stay on track with our spiritual obligation of spreading the message. Each and every one of us is required to spread the message of Islam. It is not an obligation for the secretary Tabligh or the missionary alone. In fact, in the Holy Quran, Allah Almighty says to the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that if you did not convey the message, you, meaning the Prophet, then your entire prophethood would not have been fulfilled. And so when the Quran sometimes gives a command directly to the Prophet, it means it refers to every Muslim. And this is one of those such examples. The other part of it that I think is very important is that I have no doubt that each and every one of you, whether you're watching on Zoom or you're in person, that you have any doubts about your own faith. Each and every one of you is a convicted, diehard Ahmadi Muslim, mashallah, staunch Muslim. But what happens is that we end up living a life of duality, dual life, where we have a life here in the masjid, maybe even at home. But then when we go to our friends or our workplaces, we flip to something else, where we no longer embrace the same identity of Islam and Ahmadiyyat the way we outwardly do when we're in the masjid or when we're at home. This applies to the women and the men. And what happens in this scenario is that you have 2 different worlds that you're managing at the same time, the world outside and the world inside. And all that the Tabligh department is expecting you to do is to bridge a gap between the 2. Don't live 2 different worlds, live the same world, but every so often bring the outside world in. Invite some of your friends that you already have, somebody you might already know, or take the message outside. You have a a barista at your local coffee shop. Just introduce yourself, have a conversation, maybe a little bit deeper than what's your name. That bridge is what we're talking about. That's what tabligh is. It's nothing more. That's what Ghulam Rabi Sahib was mentioning, that it's about spreading the message. You'll be surprised how many souls, especially in America, especially in this trying time, are eager and almost dying for the sake of a message that you and I have. The peace of mind that you have, even though I know each and every one of us is struggling, we have our sleepless nights, we have our anxiety and depression and whatnot. But trust me, as compared to those outside of this, of these four walls of Ahmadiyyat, they are truly struggling. And what they would give for even an ounce or a single day of Ahmadiyyat, you'd be surprised. So with that in mind, what we came up with was we obviously had a Tabligh committee meeting, and this is again the blessing of having Khilafat. The blessing is that beloved Hazur, when he sees that a need is there in a particular Jama'at, we'll hear it on This Week with Hazur in the khutbah somewhere, where Hazur will initiate something that has blessings and his prayers associated with it. And so beloved Hazur, in a virtual mulaqat a few weeks back with the missionaries of Canada, initiated the idea, and it has existed before, but it was a reminder, so to speak. He said, you should have a Tabligh committee in which the missionary, the Tabligh secretaries, and the auxiliaries, they get together and they make a plan. And then they implement that plan in the course of a year. And so by the grace and mercy of Allah, our local Amla said labaik to the words of beloved Hazur immediately. We initiated the Tabligh committee, we created it. We had our first meeting recently, and we went through an entire plan, a robust plan, something that doesn't take too much away from your day-to-day lives, but also enough that you are staying engaged and you have excuses to be engaged. And I'm going to briefly just go through it really quickly. But what I'm going to ask next is I'm going to ask both auxiliaries, and of course, Lajna also have already signed off on all of this. So if any Lajna member is there, they should know that everything I'm about to show you applies to the Lajna side as well. But then I will ask the two auxiliaries on the men's side, the Ansar and the Khuddam, and they will also share a little bit about what they have taken on this year. And this is the purpose of the Tabligh committee, that each group should not do their own, but we should work together. But we can give ownership to them and give ownership to them and so on and so forth. Okay? And I'm sure if you have questions, you can write them down so you don't miss out on any of them. Is it here? Okay. Oh, my bad. Yeah, good idea. Is that too much? Is that better? Okay. Basically, what I see is what they see, right?
Yes.
Okay, got it. All right, this is the Tabligh plan. Now, what are our targets given to us by beloved Hazur? I just want you to make sure you see that. Oh, this is not the right one. Oh, no.
This is not the right name.
No, well, it is, but I shared it with the Seattle Jama'at, and it looks like they, instead of copying it, they just changed my document. So give me a second. Is that the right document?
Which is the leader.
Yeah, this is the one.
Anything in that link?
It looks like they went to town on my link. One second. Just making sure anything else is off or missing. No, it's just the title page. Okay. Don't mind the title page. We'll get to that in a minute. But what we started the meeting with, this is very important, is that we tried to derive as much guidance directly from beloved Hazur. Okay. And we're so fortunate in the United States that we've had 4 or 5 instances in the last month and a half where beloved Hazur has spoken about the Tabligh to USA. That's very rare to happen. One particular country gets guidance on one specific subject over and over in the course of a month and a half. The first is, of course, a letter that we received for the Jalsa Salana USA. And in this letter, again, there's a whole host of things that he spoke about, but a huge chunk of it, he talked about the Tabligh. And most importantly, what he mentioned is in USA, you have, and he says here, you must develop good plans. He said, although you have many initiatives and schemes, let me zoom in so you can see. He said, although you have many initiatives and schemes for spreading our message, you do not seem to be implementing them successfully. So the main purpose of the meeting that we had, and what we're having this meeting now, is general meeting, is that we want your help, we want your buy-in to make sure that we implement this in one way or the other. You can, as we're looking at it briefly, just think about what you could see yourself doing in terms of tabligh. If each and every one of us can at least agree on one or two things, as simple as they may be, that'll help us start the implementation. The second guidance we received is, of course, the Shura proposal that happened recently, and it was sent to Bilal Azur for his guidance, and he approved the Shura proposal as we had outlined. And of course, there's a number of things mentioned in there as well. And again, one salient thing was that additionally, Jama'at events such as, oh man, I'm a Windows guy, by the way. Okay, there it is. Very good. Jama'at events such as Khilafat Day, Promised Messiah Day, and Sirat al-Nabi should have an added external focus element, okay? So we've had instances where we've kept them very internal and club-like, but these were events that were created initially for the outside world, and we're just reminding the Jama'at to make sure we do that again. So when Promised Messiah Day comes, we may have a flyer or a digital flyer for you. Invite your Muslim friends. Invite your Christian friends, because we'll talk about Messiah as well. And then when the Khilafat Day comes, invite your Muslim friends. Say, hey, you want Muslim unity? Come, let's talk about Muslim unity. And you'd be surprised, many of them would be interested to learn more and to see what our example, and we've had that a few times in the past. So inshallah, that we plan to do that again this year. Additionally, Beloved Azur did say 25% of the US population. This is based on the Shura proposal, but in recently, and this is why I'll scroll down really quickly, we had a virtual mulaqat with Beloved Azur and all the USA missionaries. And in this, he said a series of things, and one of them, I think that was very important, is this one right here. And this applies to all of us here. I wanted to briefly just read this so you understand what's happening. Beloved Azur said several years ago, around 15 or more years, I suggested that the message of Ahmadiyya should reach 10% of the population. America is such a vast country with a significant population. And as stated by Amir Sahib, there are only 41 field missionaries. He didn't say there's a 41 missionary. He said there's only, that's it, just 41. It may feel like we have a lot. Then he says, while it may seem unattainable under normal circumstances, how could 41 people do this job? If your system is well organized and everyone is involved, then surely this message can spread. A single person can achieve little on their own. And he was referring to us as missionaries. He said you can achieve very little on your own, but a single individual can form a team and inspire them. If you possess leadership qualities, you can lead them effectively. This becomes possible when people realize that their missionary, their leader, is also prepared for every sacrifice and is deeply committed to fulfilling the duties to which he is drawing their attention with unwavering loyalty. So that's a prayer I request from you. The Beloved Azur has that expectation for me as a missionary, that may Allah help me to fulfill that expectation. Ameen. So then we have, of course, in-person meeting with Beloved Azur and some Khudam that went from USA. This happened again in June as well. And in the first one, Beloved Azur asked, how many Da'in do you have in the country? Da'in, of course, are those who understand their role as a Muslim and want to do the pro-level tabligh, which is they want to make sure that they're doing the best. But we understand that a da'i could be anybody. You could wake up one morning and say, I want to be a da'i. I want to fulfill that spiritual obligation. And the tabligh department, mashallah, has a series of steps for you to take, very easy ones. And slowly you'll grow and become whatever the da'i is expected to be. Just like if you were to join Ahmadiyya today, we would not hand you, chanda, pay chanda for Maryam Shadi Fund, right? We would not start there. We would start with much basic stuff and build you up. And eventually one day you would know what that is and you would donate towards it, okay? In the same way, as you become a da'i, and we want actually, and this is the point I'm trying to make here, Beloved Azur says, how many da'in do you have? And he said, we have 415 in the whole country. Beloved Azur said, but you should have 4,000. Now, mind you, Hazur knows we have 4,000 Khudam. And he's telling the Khudam, it shouldn't be 400. It should be every single Khadim should be a da'i. And the same applies to the whole country. Every single member sitting here should be a da'i. And there's quotes I can find from Khulafa in the past as well, that a da'i is not just 5 of you or 10 of you. It has to be every one of us. So let's make that promise today that each and every one of us is now a da'i. But the point is, how do we become an active da'i, not just da'i by name, okay? just like we don't want to be an Ahmadi by name alone. Now, with that, just briefly, we're planning to have Da'in classes. There's some online courses. We'll have monthly meetings. We'll review the Da'in data in our local Amla meetings. And then, of course, there's one-to-one tabligh, which is always a primary thing of how you convert somebody. And it's very simple. One, increase the frequency of your meeting your existing friends. Two, initiate conversations that are God-related. And three, bring them to a mosque, a meeting. That's it, these 3 steps. If you just start working on these 3 steps, you'll start to notice many people are interested among the friends you already have. Then small gatherings. This is what I wanted to briefly introduce, and I don't want to take too much time. I actually don't know how much time do I have, by the way.
You have
The
another-
tabligh?
Yeah, just wrap it up by noon.
Okay, take it, that's fine. We are planning, inshallah ta'ala, to have what is called Discover Islam, a weekly in-person meeting here at the masjid. And it'll be every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m., inshallah. And I'll show you the flyer briefly. But what we've also done is that, of course, we cannot expect the 5 or 10 da'in that are active to bring their friends every single week. Their friends will get annoyed, they'll stop talking to them, and so on and so forth. So what we've done is a targeted focus, which is what Beloved Hazur has asked. And the targeted focus is that every month, the first Wednesday of the month, Khodam should bring their guests. And they'll talk about that in more detail. The second week, Ansar should bring their friends. Third week, Lajna will do the same. And then the fourth week, we'll have a Da'in class. We'll regroup and talk about, okay, what did we do this month? How did it go? What was the plan? So it's very simple. Let's say Aleem Saab has a number of friends out here. We know of many of them. All he has to do is say, okay, come on the second week of Wednesday. Just come, join me. And he can work that whole month making a friend, engaging with that friend, and making sure that they come on that particular date. And the same can apply to each one of you. Similarly, Pico Rivera, inshallah, will continue their Taco Tuesdays once a month. Then briefly, there are local tabligh days, which you saw earlier was Jama'at events such as Khilafat Day, Promise Day, Sirat al-Nabi should have an added external focus. So alhamdulillah, we've already had a successful July 20th flyer distribution yesterday. We went to 203 homes. We had 23 people involved, alhamdulillah. And it was Khudam, Ansar, and Atfal. So everybody in the whole Jamaat, mashallah, was involved. And of course, Waqfina was in the forefront. Similarly, in August, this is again, some of these things are tentative. There's no plan yet, but it was suggested that maybe we renew our neighborhood tabligh barbecue that we did last year, but it is tentative. But then the other programs are fixed. In December, we have our Jalsa Salana. In March, we have Promised Messiah Day. But in March this year, we're also going to have the annual iftar dinner because March 1st is the first day of Ramadan. So it'll end at the end of March. So it'll just be March where you'll have to fit in both. May, Khilafat Day. June, Jalsa Salana USA. So you can see we have a number of activities that are going to happen already. Outreach events. Now this one I'm going to let Khudam and Ansar go ahead and reflect on. And then social media, as you can see, we're also focusing on this, building up platform, engaging with some of the experts, influencers that we have even in the Jamaat. And this was that first page I wanted to show everybody. The bad target that we received from Beloved Hazur in Los Angeles, Greater Los Angeles, is 60, which, mind you, is a very insignificant number. We just have to work towards it. There are 26,000 homes in Chino alone and 91,000 residents in Chino alone. If we can't get 60 people interested in Islam and Ahmadiyyat among 91,000 people, it would be shocking, okay? So the real approach is, how do we focus, at least on one end, just the residents of Chino? Then let's not talk about all the network of friends that you all have, which would be in the thousands. So the effect that we can make is huge. It's a ripple effect that can change a lot, but we just have to start implementing it, inshallah. Da'in, of course, we want to start off with at least 100 that are active. Beloved Hazur gave the target of 10 bats per da'i, but again, this is a long-term goal. This is a goal we build up towards. And then, of course, the 10% population of greater LA is 1.8 million. How do we reach 1.8 million people? Is it a billboard? Is it a flyer? Is it social media? We'll, inshallah, work on that together. And if we work from the 10% lowest to the 25%, it's 4.6 million. So these are some of the goals that we have in mind, inshallah ta'ala. With that, I'll request Majlis Ansarullah to come on up and just reflect a little bit about some of these outreach events. Abu Bakr Anasa, please.
Assalamualaikum. So, as Murabbi Sahib mentioned that from Ansarullah, the auxiliary of Ansarullah was also part of this committee meeting. And just, on the outline, we have, the weekly, the program that is on Wednesday. So Ansar, inshallah, will be inviting our friends and neighbors. So the plan is basically right now is to just whatever context that we have on a daily basis, whether at work, in school, friends, neighbors, even family members, like I have many that are non-Ahmadi. This is the platform that, Murabbi Sahib is here, Ghulam Rabi Sahib is here, a lot of other scholars are here. This is our platform to, answer the questions they might have. This is also our opportunity to learn, like Ghulam Rabi Sahib said, that this is also training for us. This will enable us to also learn. So that's one of the, the part of the Ansar participation. Also, for the month of November, we also will be helping with the church Thanksgiving program. I don't have the details to share about that right now, but as we get closer, we will be sharing that information with our Ansar brothers. This will be sort of like an interfaith, as I can imagine that it will be an interfaith gathering of, sharing our commonalities and sharing about Islam and things of that nature. So, the main thing here is that from auxiliaries from MKA and Ansarullah, we will be reaching out to our members. And, we also need everybody's cooperations to just, yourself, invite your contacts. And, this way we can, of course, each programs, it's outlined here, auxiliaries will take the lead. And from Ansarullah, that's one of them. We also have in January month, the Lamida Library, Muhammad Messenger of Peace. So that will be also another event that we will be also taking the lead on. And as I said, as more information comes up, we will share that with you. In addition to, the regular flyer distributions that we are participating in on a neighborhood and, in street corners, we will be also doing that. There is slightly different plans that are involved in the Majlis Ansarullah Tabligh plan, but this is, I'm glad that we are uniting into this program also to work together. And this way, it's also gives us the confidence that we have a team with Murabbi Sahib's leadership and to train us, because many of us want to give the message of, Ahmadiyyat and Promised Messiah, and, the solutions that Huzur is constantly giving the world. For me, the main target is to give the people that are, going through all these problems, social problems, political problems, economic problems, what is our solutions? What is the Islam solutions that is given by our Khalifa as a leader to the world? This is my way of inviting my friends and my family, that we all have problems, but we may not know what the answer is. Here's our answers. If you have any questions, please come and ask. So we also work together. So that's pretty much.
Jazakallah. Fuad Khan Sahib is here as well. So Zaim Sahib and Abu Bakr Rana Sahib, who is working as a Tabligh secretary of Ansarullah. Alhamdulillah, they not only agreed, but they are inshallah ta'ala planning some of these events. I'll request Khudam al-Hamdi as well to come up. And again, mind you, they're taking the lead, but that doesn't mean that they're the only ones participating. Ansar will join, Khudam will join, Atfal will join. And the same is true with the Ansar program. They're just going to be the ones who are responsible to host it. The rest of us, inshallah ta'ala, will join and support it. So I request Surji Rope, so guide Sahib Khuda Nabi.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. So yeah, with the concerted effort that Jamaat Tabligh has, we have, as Majlis Khuddam al-Ahmadiyya, there's a few responsibilities that we'll be taking lead on. One is the weekly dars, or the weekly Discover Islam. Every first week of the month, that'll be Khuddam will have a targeted effort to invite their friends. So all Khuddam will have, they'll work with our Nazim, Tabligh Ibrahim Sayyid Ahmed Saab, to invite their friends to the masjid at Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. on the first Wednesday of the month. This doesn't mean that, as Murabi Saab mentioned, that Ansar, you're not allowed to bring your friends. You can definitely bring your friends. Everyone's, welcome. And then there will be the flyer distribution, which we already went through. Alhamdulillah, was a good turnout. And then well, the dates are tentative right now, but we will also take lead on the barbecue cookout. I think you guys remember last year, it was a pretty successful event, alhamdulillah. So Majlis Khuddam al-Ahmadiyya, since we're already doing barbecues anyways, we figured we'll take the lead on this one. And invite all the neighbors for that. And then February, we have a targeted event. So Hazur mentioned specifically that we should have the event at colleges as well. And since most people that are familiar with colleges would be Khuddam al-Ahmadiyya, we took the initiative to take that event lead as well. So February, there's college school event is what we're going to target, and it'll focus on Black History Month presentations. So MK will take the lead on that. And then pretty similarly in that same kind of arena of education, there's a LA Times Festival of Books, which we'll also be taking a lead on. I skipped over King Day Parade. That'll also be in January. So we'll also be taking a lead on that one. And then social media. So social media is a pretty big one. We're, Khuddam al-Ahmadiyya, mashallah, we're the young crowd, so we can handle social media, even with Atfal in that case. So we have, since we have the familiarity of, how to make viral videos and whatnot, we'll be doing that. So things like, I think some of you have already seen Murabi Sabahat Ali Sahib, his videos, they've been doing really well, review of religions. So similar like that, we're gonna push it more, focus it more towards Islam and Ahmadiyyat, and just show people that, hey, this is what Islam Ahmadiyyat is. We've taken the name of SoCal Muslims, which is pretty general. It's not, we're not even like giving them the idea that it's just Ahmadiyyat. That's because, Ahmadiyyat is Musliman as well. So and then we also have another initiative of Ask Islam US. So Ask Islam, Rabi Sahib was very well involved in this previously. And then there was a, kind of a shutdown, and now we're rejuvenating it. Inshallah, we'll have Ask Islam US, which will be a really good program where many Murabbiyan will come together and discuss any social events or any general issues in today's modern age. And there will also be, of course, questions being answered as well, hence the Ask Islam. And then a lot of these will be, a lot of the material will be focused on solutions on, our modern life issues from an Islamic perspective. How does Islam solve literally every single problem that the world has? And that's, it's a very good tabligh opportunity for anyone. It doesn't have to be anyone who's Christian or even Muslim themselves. They're also welcome to see, hey, Islam does solve this issue, this issue. And then Google Maps, actually Murabi Saab and General Secretary Saab have already been, answering questions and stuff like that. We're actually getting a lot of traffic through our Google Maps, both masjid link. So I'm asking everyone also right now to leave a good review right now, if you can, just hit 5 stars on both of our masajid. And then, also what's great is that usually when you see a lot of guests for Jummah, they typically just search mosque on their Google Maps and they see our Chino Masjid is very nice and it has a lot of reviews and stuff like that. So they just come right here. So that's a very good opportunity as well for Tabligh. And that pretty much covers all of MK's initiatives for this.
And just briefly, I wanted to just show the flyer. It's just a rough design here. But basically the front cover would say Discover Islam. Are you able to see this or no?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there we go. Okay. And so it basically is an informal conversation on faith, morality, and social issues every Wednesday. Free admission, open to public. And then it has a brief, explanation. 36% of Americans are not convinced that God exists. Let's not forget that 53% of Americans are leaving organized religion altogether, the greatest decline in a century. Meanwhile, 58% of Americans expect another world war by 2050. In these uncertain times, faith and spirituality are needed more than ever. We believe that by coming together, we can build bridges of understanding and create a brighter future for all. Our discussions at the mosque focus on pressing issues of today, seeking common ground and shared solutions. And then the next page says, join us at the mosque to explore spiritual insights, strengthen your faith, and foster community. Let's find solutions together. Then what we've done additionally, though, is we took some feedback from some of the youth of our Jama'at, and they said that usually people are more interested if there's specific topics that are expected to be mentioned or discussed. So what we did was we made a list of topics here, but these are topics where we already have material from our Ask Islam YouTube channel. There are dedicated shows. Each one is labeled as this. So there's one show called Social Unrest and the Role of God, and they have a discussion. And so in our in-person meeting, we could show clips from it so that it's not just us making up something. We're showing, certified information from our scholars in the Jama'at, and then having a discussion about it. So, and similar to justice, world peace, spirituality, organized religion, body image, censorship, Black History Month, even marriage, materialism, so on and so forth. And then, of course, our expectation is that people should look us up on Google Maps, and many of you can do that. But when you do that, make sure you turn the Wi-Fi off. You want to have your, you don't want the IP address of this same Wi-Fi. You want to make sure everybody has their own. So just turn the Wi-Fi off and then go ahead and put in a good review. And we'll, inshallah, keep encouraging more members to do so. And then, of course, the website and the YouTube channel. And the other thing we did rigorously, we had a huge survey among the committee members. We had a lot of different names that we were suggesting to call this. Real Talk on Islam, Faith Talks, Spiritual Chats, a whole host of other names. And slowly they came down to 2 names, Faith Talks and Discover Islam. And then we shared them among our youth. There were 2 points of view. One was we should keep it very generic so every spectrum of people can join. And then the other group, which was heavily inclined towards, and we had a majority vote, which was we should call it Discover Islam. We should not hide behind it being too general. Let's be very specific, what we're trying to do, what we're trying to share, but let's put a title that doesn't say we're converting you to Islam. Just come and explore Islam or discover it or learn a little bit more about it. But this way, at least we're not like other Christians. I'm sure many of you have had flyers that say, talk about faith, but they really know they're going to come and you're going to talk about Jesus, right? So here we wanted to make sure that wasn't the case. It was at least direct enough, but also neutral enough where people would be willing to come and learn. And that's where the name Discover Islam came in. We have about 4 minutes. If anybody has any question now related to Tabligh, I have Secretary Tabligh, so if you can come as well. Anybody has any question, we can answer it. If not, we can wait till the question answer session for any detailed questions.
I just wanted to add that the Shura proposal subcommittee, whatever they have addressed all the goals, you're looking at the implementation. So we just looked at the goals and we said how we want to implement together. So incorporating all of Huzur's advice that Murabi Sahib has mentioned. And I encourage you, if there's only one thing that you take from here, participating in Tabligh, just keep Wednesday in your mind, and so that you can come, at least commit to a couple of Wednesdays, so that you can at least come. Murabi Sahib is here, get yourself activated. You will see other dying talk about their experience that will motivate you to do that. So take that Wednesday. Yes, I think.
Yeah, Sheikh.
We just saw, this, we just got that URL. And we're just gonna do that. Yeah.
I have a suggestion. Can I
Double
say
checking
something?
our work.
Right. Anybody from the, if you have any question from the Zoom, please type your questions and we will answer that. Abu Bakr Anasab.
Can I say something instead of typing? Can I do that? In a very brief.
Yeah, so the question was what topics will be discussed on the Wednesday meetings, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna stick with these topics in general, but break them up throughout the month. So for example, in July, we would have been talking about social unrest and the role of God. And so throughout the month, we'll talk about it. So every time somebody comes, we know exactly what to talk about. The Dain are ready mentally, they've watched the episode already, so they know what items to talk about, so that we're not just talking aimlessly or very basic stuff. We can get a little bit deeper in the conversation. And then as you can see, obviously, this is the
I
whole
don't think they
fiscal
can
year.
hear you.
One of the other subtle goals that we have is that all 26,000 homes in Chino, by the end of June, we should have reached each one of them, knocked on their door, gave them a flyer. Obviously, a lot of that will be on some of us more active members, but we want to hope that everybody can get involved in that. Because at least by the end of the fiscal year, we can at least report back to Beloved Azur, every single resident of Chino, we have reached out to them ourselves physically. That would be a good way to do, inshallah ta'ala.
I just want to end with one thing, and of course, you can ask other questions. I think we have to end by noon. There is also a part of the Tabligh subcommittee proposal was to also reach out to 10,000 people via mail, physical mail. We have already done that. El Jama'at is one of the first. I think we already reached out to 14,000. We got a few replies. Usually it's negative. It just tells you people don't know anything basic about Islam. They accuse us that Islam is, of course, all the false things. So it tells us there's a lot of work needs to be done. There's a gentleman who sent us a 2-page questions, and one of the active Dain replied to it. So I'm just saying that there are other things that are going on behind the back. You can participate as well if you're interested, writing letters to editors, answering. So if you are, you cannot come for some reason, you're in distance, that doesn't excuse you have other opportunities. Just reach out to us and we'll inshallah assign you something. Jazakallah.
One
Assalamualaikum.
last
Can I say
cool thing I
something?
wanted to just share the design of this. It looks pretty basic.
Assalamualaikum.
Blue,
I don't
and
think
has
they
random
can hear
dots in it.
you.
But those random
Can
dots
I-
in the top left corner is Pleiades. And you know that the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam prophesies that when faith ascends up to the Pleiades, the promised Messiah will bring them down. So we intentionally put that image here with the hope and prayer that this will help many lost souls also find that faith in the promised Messiah. Just a thought I wanted to share with everybody. Jazakallah. Zakir Sahab, back to you. I don't know what to do here.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah Rabbi Sahab
Jazakallah.
and Ghulam Rabbi Sahab. And of course, our brother from Ansarullah and Khudam al-Ahmadiyya. Next, I request our Secretary Sahab Rishtanata, Dr. Taha Mansoor Ahmad Sahab.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Amma ba'da fa'uzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. So I'm going to present the Majlis Shura recommendations and implementation plan for the Rishtanata department. And the proposal was that 90% of the world population lives in countries where marriage rates are declining. Marriage rates in the US have declined about 60% since the 1970s. And then our community also is witnessing several challenges to the institution of marriage. And these include difficulties in finding matches, delaying marriages, a trend in both early and middle-aged divorces, and marriages outside the Jama'at. So as a community, we have to kind of foresee this challenge and prepare for the future. And it is suggested that the Shura body deliberate on the challenges faced by the institution of marriage in our Jama'at and kind of have an open dialogue and identify areas of concerns and ways and means to address them over the next few years. So the proposal and its solution has been sort of divided into two parts. Part one is kind of getting married. You can think of it this way: finding matches, addressing delays in marriage, addressing outside marriages or marriages outside the Jamaat. And then part two is kind of, I look at it as staying married. So addressing the causes of divorce. So part of the solutions that were proposed and approved by Hazur Ayatollah bin Nasser Aziz is, number one, emphasize importance of both individual and collective prayer when addressing matrimonial matters in the Jamaat, and then start educating children and do tarbiyat about the blessings and importance of marriage and start early. And then also create content on Islamic marriage for marriageable youth. So when one of our boys and girls turn 18, right around that time, have specific content for them. So early education of very young, 10 plus, and then young adult education. And then counseling and education and tarbiyat, not just at the time of nikah, which the Rishta Nata department does premarital counseling. It's about a 2-hour session with both prospective bride and groom, but that's at the time of nikah. Move that forward up, when you're looking for a spouse and you're trying to register, if you register in the Rishta Nata system, maybe do premarital counseling at that time as well. So these are the action items and plans. During the designated Salat Ashra, there will be a national campaign for congregational tahajjud, and it'll be a designated week or weekend during the year. And the idea is to specifically bring attention to praying for matrimonial struggles in the Jamaat, and we're going to use the dedicated time during already existing bi-monthly 10-day Salat Ashras. And I'm going to encourage all of you here, both men and ladies, and also on Zoom, please participate in that. Come to the tahajjud, pray for the matrimonial struggles of your family and our extended family and in the Jamaat. Then the Rishta Nata department is going to create video content for children and maybe even publish a children's book on Islam. And this is going to be targeted for age 10 plus. And working with the National Tarbiyat Department as well as MTA USA, kind of a small, both a book as well as a video program. They're going to also add, this is another action item, Tarbiyat Department, working with Tarbiyat Department to update the syllabus for Tahir Academy, and particularly at the levels of Tahir Academy targeting age 10 plus. It's going to include some content on Islamic marriage. And then, like I mentioned, initiating premarital counseling at an earlier phase in the process, maybe at the time of registration, not just at the time of nikah, and then repeated at the time of nikah. And then there's going to be a premarital counseling booklet, which is already there, but it's going to be revised, and it will actually be sent out to all Jamaat members at the time of registration for them to review. Finally, there's going to be a course created on Islamic marriage, mandatory for all Ahmadi boys and girls, kind of to take at age 18 when they turn 18. So once this module is complete, then a report is provided to the local Tarbiyat secretary to capture participation rate. So this is going to be another thing that the Rishta Nata department will work with the Tarbiyat department to create an online module. And as our boys and girls reach age 18, this will be one of those things that's going to be required that we have them complete this, and there'll be a certificate of completion. Ideally in person, but it should, could potentially be virtual. And the target date for this is September 15, 2024, to roll this out. And the idea will be to kind of, because as they go, as our boys and girls go into college and all the messages that they hear about gender and marriage and so forth. So this will at least prepare them on some of the Islamic teachings on importance and blessings of marriage, and how are we to find a spouse with the Rishta Nata Nizam, and sort of expectations and also roles and responsibilities and so forth. So that's the action plan. Course will be ideally in person with coordination of the Murabi Silsila with certification at the end, and maybe even an examination. So that was what the Rishta Nata plan was on sort of getting married, delays in marriage and marriage outside of the Jama'at. Next is, what about the breakdown of marriages? Upward trend of early and middle-aged divorces. Here, the root cause analysis was discussed, and primary causes of marriage breakdowns was lack of reliance on prayers, irregularity in congregational prayers as a couple, inability for couples to want to salvage the marriage, and unwillingness to work out disputes, and unwillingness to lower expectations. And then some reasons shared by the Umar and Kaza. Sorry, this is, by the way, this is not my phone. Just I think this was iPad. So other reasons for divorce as shared by Kaza and Umar in-law interference, sort of dishonesty, not revealing stuff that was relevant prior to marriage, mental health issues, anger issues, financial disputes, and then financial hardship, domestic violence and abuse, drug abuse, inflexibility and willing to relocate with a spouse, a lack of intimacy, consummation of marriage, becoming disinterested in one another, spiritual incompatibility and cultural incompatibility, and then sort of kind of maintaining a marriage while children are at home, but sort of giving up when they leave. Here are the proposed solutions, sort of, we're gonna bring forward. There's a lot of guidance that our Khulafa have given on this topic, and going to try to highlight that guidance more prominently. There are going to be more active marriage wellness checks, post-marital counseling, and also maybe, if we can find the right panel, but, creating some testimonials from panels or couples, how they have navigated marriage discord. Also highlighting some lower divorce rate in marriages arranged through Rishta Nata. So there is actually data that Rishta Nata matched couples also have divorces, but it's a little bit lower than the ones done outside the Rishta Nata. And then also to, do proper vetting of rishtas through local Jama'at. So the vetting process of candidates as they try to enter the database is going to be enhanced. And also maybe creating avenues for childcare so parents can spend time with each other. So again, listed as action items. The Rishta Nata department will try to create a post-marriage mentoring pathway where newly married couples are paired with counselors from day one. So ideally, these will be the same counselors that you had when you did your, premarital counseling at the time of nikah, who now, if you built a little bit of trust with them, may stay on and do periodic checks and are available to address any challenges which arise, and hopefully build a relationship of trust with the couple, the newlywed couple. And ideally to continue this for several years into the marriage, the first 3 years. That's the, so going on to the next one, this is something that most of these are going to be done at the national level, but there will be some stuff that we locally will need also to do. Local Jamaat programs on marital harmony, focusing on examples from Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and Promised Messiah Alayhi Salam. In addition, testimonials of current couples who share how they have successfully navigated through marital challenges based on Islamic teachings. And this could be representative of either early or middle-aged marriages. If possible, it's hard to find time and agenda. But if we can be included in general body meeting agendas on a quarterly basis, that is ideal. Scenario-based modules can also be provided to local Jama'ats by the national department. So this is the ask for the local departments. Vetting. So people may or may not know, but when somebody signs on to the Rishta Nata department, there's on the background, there's a vetting process. The Sadr and the Rishta Nata secretary historically have been involved. We try to find out, confirm demographics, address, Jamaat member, Chanda status, activity in the Jamaat, and if we are aware of any outside marriages, so forth. So that's a vetting process. That's going to be enhanced, and now, in addition to local Sadr and Rishta Nata secretary, input is going to be solicited from either auxiliaries and or the Murabi as well. People who are not going through the Rishta Nata database, they can also utilize this vetting process if they want to. Somebody from, if you are potentially considering a spouse from a different Jamaat, there is a process where you can kind of find out about this person, even if they're not through the Rishta Nata department. So that's the other aspect that we'll do. So once there's a verification that this so-and-so person is part of the Jamaat, as far as we know, in good standing, then we activate them in the database. And I think that is sort of it in terms of the content.
Assalamu alaikum.
Let me just double check. No, I think this is it. I know I had a different slide deck, but I don't think that got loaded. So it had basically the same information. So what I wanted to share, are we able to load a different slide deck?
Yeah, if you want to.
Yeah, if we can, in the meantime, we can answer some questions and I'll load something else up.
You'll read the question and Murbi Sabin.
Gee, I'll ask it here. And we'll turn on these mics off because the feedback. All right. So yes, there's been a number of questions that have been asked. And as always, by the way, there is a microphone for the ladies on the lady side that's in the prayer hall. So you can just unmute it and feel free to ask your questions. But here's one question that was posted. Quraishi Sab. Quraishi Sab asks, our challenge in the Jamaat is that boys and girls do not know about what are the potential candidates they can marry. They go to colleges and find a potential partner for themselves. So the exposure for them inside Jamaat is very negligible. He apologizes if this was answered during the program, or if it was addressed in your presentation, but wanted to see if there's any plan to address said issue.
So can I load my other presentation?
Absolutely. Is it, do you email it to me?
Yeah, that was the more recent email.
Oh, okay. Jeez.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Jazakallah for the question. Just to reiterate the question, everybody understands is that we're asking if our children had more exposure to the opposite gender, then they would not go out and find somebody where they do have exposure. So the premise of the question, I understand where it's coming from. We are in a different society now, in a different era, but I want us to remember, and I take you back for a moment. Most of the people here are actually children, parents. Their children are not here, very few are here. But let's understand one thing, is that society today, statistically speaking, over 60% of matches that are made in society are not made through social media, and they're not even made through personal contacts. They're made through a friend of a friend. Somebody suggests somebody for you, okay? A coworker, a relative, or a friend says, I know somebody who would be very good for you. Let me show you who they are. And then they introduce them. The reason I share that with you is because if you take Islam out of it and you look at the natural course of this world, how many successful relationships are established in society today, they happen exactly the way Islam suggests it, where somebody should suggest a partner for you. You should not go and search them yourself, or you'll be limited by your search. Because what is your day-to-day routine? You go to work, you probably interact with 3 or 4 people of the opposite gender. You go to school, maybe 5 to 10, and that's it. That means that your pool of a match is limited to that number of people. But Islam says that your pool should never be limited to the to the people that you meet on a daily basis. You can expand that pool if everybody else in the society helps you. If I know somebody, if I know Zakaria Sayyid, then I know what kind of characteristics he has, what quality he has. And so I can have an eye out through myself, my friends, my relatives, for somebody who would be a good match for him. Okay? That's one thing. The second part of it is that Islam does not give anybody permission to go and find somebody on their own through dating. It is not allowed at all. And it's not allowed not because it's something good for you and Islam is trying to keep you from it. Dating culture is not successful. It has failed time and time again. Why? It is called the paradox of choice. If you go today to the grocery store and there are 100 different brands of cereal, what happens? They say psychologically, you will likely not to choose any cereal box. You'll look at it, you'll get overwhelmed. Let me get this one, let me get Cheerios, let me get this. Never mind, this is too much, and you'll leave it. But if there are limited choices, not limited, but fewer choices, very specific choices. I want something healthy. I want something like this. I want something like this. You're more likely to choose. In the dating culture, what it creates is that you have one relationship today. You like certain characteristics about them. You don't like others. After a few months, maybe a year, it breaks off. You proceed to the next relationship. Now, there are different things you like about them and different things you don't. And then you break it off again, then you proceed to the next. By the time you get to the third and fourth, you remember the first one. You know what? She actually had some better relationship, qualities here and here and here, but she's long gone. And so you end up in this vicious cycle of trying to find a spouse or trying to find a mate, but you'll never find them in that culture. The last part of the question, which is exposure, is why don't we allow our boys and girls to hang out with one another? It would solve our problem. It would not. It would create a society that is no different than the outside world. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for example, did not interact with Hazrat Khatija directly. And he did not say, hey, I'd like to marry you, or vice versa. It did not happen that way. In fact, it was Hazrat Khatija's friend who said, after hearing about the successful caravan trip that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam managed, she said, well, he's a good man. He's good-hearted. He has good qualities, good characteristics. Khatija, you are good. You have good qualities. You have so-and-so. Why don't you marry him? And she said, I'm okay with it. What do you suggest? She said, let me find out. So she goes to the Holy Prophet, the friend does, and says that, are you interested in a proposal of marriage from Khatija? And he goes, let me ask my father. And we know his father had passed away. Who was he referring to? Hazrat Abu Talib. And he said, ask him. So she went to him and asked him. And he said, you have my blessing. And then they proceeded for marriage. This is the model. The version that we sometimes share in our speeches is this elaborate, love triangle of some sort. It's not the truth. The truth was that the reason it was blessed was because they did it correctly, and they did it from day one. The other part of it I want you to understand is that if at any point you put a group of boys and girls together, it becomes as artificial as you can imagine. This is why speed dating has never succeeded. This is why certain areas where they allow open mixing never succeeds. Why? Because you are not your honest self. You are going to pretend to be somebody else naturally as a defense mechanism. So Islam says, you are who you are. based on the people you interact with daily. I know Zakaria Sayyid Sahab because we are friends from childhood. But somebody who meets him today might think something different of him, good or bad. But if you ask me, I can tell you exactly what I know about Zakaria Sayyid Sahab. And that's why that is why in Islam, one, which I want to just reflect or recall some of the points I mentioned to you. One, Islam says that your pool of rishta should not be limited to the people you interact with daily, but us as a society should help one another, number one. Number two, if you ever meet somebody in a dating culture or even in a group setting, you will never be your honest self. So there will be instances when our girls will be matched with boys who seem to be good, but end up not being so good, and vice versa. And the third thing, which is our biggest effort that our parents need to make. Our fathers are here, okay? And they have daughters or they have sons. They don't make the effort to meet the Khuddam here. They don't make the effort to know who they are. There are ijtimas that happen. There are events that happen. There are ways in which all of you could know all of the boys here. I arrived only 2 years ago. I know probably more of the Khuddam now. Why? It's not because I've been here longer. You have been here longer than I have. But you have, as fathers, stepped back and not taken the role of, let me find out how these boys are. In fact, many times, those who have girls, I ask them, why haven't you considered LA? Oh, these boys are terrible. Which boys? I don't know. I've heard. What do you mean you've heard? You've been here for 20 years. You have been watching these boys grow up. Similarly, on the girl side, some of our mothers will be like, no, I don't like her because of this reason, or because she asked a question, or she did this. Then what happens? Our parents are the same people who force our children to delay marriage. This is on us as parents. What I mean by that, go get a job, go get a house, then we'll find you a girl, or vice versa, we'll find you a boy. What happens? You all know this. Many of you were married early on as parents. You know that there is a clock. You can only live so long alone. Eventually, you'll get desperate enough where somebody will come across you and you will consider them for marriage. But they're getting pressure from the parents. Don't even think about it. Don't even mention it in the home. Rishta? No way. Go get a job first. Go get a home first. But we forget that the longer you make them wait, the more likely they will bring somebody home. Then what are you going to do? And many of us have experienced this. And when they bring them home, then we're doing damage control. I'm not saying it's bad. We've had instances where we've helped those people convert genuinely. We've helped them through that process. But I'm talking about genuinely why we've reached this point. And the last part that our families have lacked to do in the last 10 or so years, we don't meet one another as families. We live far away. We live at a distance. We make sure that the nearest Ahmadi is 20 minutes away or 10 minutes away. They're not in our backyard. We don't meet them regularly. We don't go for picnics. We don't have family outings. I remember the days, Nasser Nusab remembers, all of you remember, that we would go as, families. We go for a picnic. We go camping. What does that do? It allows families to get close enough where they get an idea of how the other children are. Those are those instances where you can be yourself, but also get an idea of how the others are, the boys or the girls. I'm not saying we're mixing, but they're enough where you get an idea as parents. The mothers are there, they're with the girls, they get an idea how these girls are. Same with the boys' side. So we've distanced ourselves and then we get upset. Why isn't this not the system working? But we've created a society where we're not meeting one another. And then we ask, why are our kids not meeting one another? And they're exposed to outside world. So if any kid is listening, Islam does not allow you to go outside and find somebody. It does not allow you to do that. It does allow you, however, to ask everybody around you to find you somebody. I can help you, a friend. It doesn't have to be your parents. Remember, it does not have to be your parents who find you a match. It can be a friend. I know many of my friends, some of them are missionaries, it was their friends who proposed their own sisters and they got married. These are things that exist in our culture. We're allowed to expand. But when we limit certain things and then we wonder why it's not working, this is why we're here. So I just wanted to address this. Sorry for the long, lengthy answer there.
Jazakallah, Rabbi Saab. I just wanted to add though. While we're, should I wait? We also have meet and greet programs that are done to address Qureshi Saab's question. Apart from the website and individualized matchmaking, there are also meet and greet programs that are done every 2 months in various Jama'ats. And here, this is an opportunity for families of boys and girls to meet in a safe space, generally the masjid, and just get to know one another. And there's no agenda. It's a 30-minute, 45-minute where just families can meet. And so this is where boys' families, girls' family can actually meet. I know we recently had a meet and greet at USA Jalsa. Prior to that, it's been held at the West Coast Jalsa, I believe Dallas, Detroit, Houston, New York, South Virginia, and I may be missing a few names as well. So these will continue as well. So this is another opportunity to kind of get yourself out there and at least be known. So even if the match doesn't work at the meet and greet, your name goes into a list and people know about you. And then the whole idea is to increase your networking.
Yeah, so the question was, so
Oh, there's one more question.
networking for the parents is the only solution. They mentioned it's very challenging issues for the parents. I said, I agree, but you have two options. Either the parents network or your children network. Islam says if the parents make the effort of making a society with one another, getting to know one another, making efforts to know who they are, then you won't have to burden your children to go do that themselves. And when they're burdened to do it, they're going to end up making choices that are, of course, at their age level, their maturity level, their experience level, which can lead them to difficult decisions, divorces that end up happening on their own and vice versa. Now, I'm not saying that our networking is rock solid. There are instances when parents hear a rishta, we hear about somebody, a family, it's a good family, we write it off, we say they're great, and we do the rishta. And then we find out the family wasn't so great. There, Hazur has said so many times, even people who come to Hazur saying, Hazur, give us a rishta. He says, okay, here's a suggestion. Then he pauses. He sometimes even holds their hand and he says, do tahqiq, do your own investigation properly. That is what Islam encourages. And sometimes we don't do that. We hear a name, so-and-so is from this Jama'at, he's a president, he's whatever. And we say, oh, they must be great. And we don't even bother to ask the ground reality of who the child is or who the family is, the mother, whatever. And then that burden is on us. And so that's where, again, I want to urge everybody, if you do know of a rishta or you're working on a rishta right now and you haven't called me yet, I would suggest to do that. If you haven't called Sadr Saab yet, please do that. He can connect you. I can connect you with somebody. Maybe if it's an outside this Jamaat, we can connect. We can give you some ground realities. But what happens is many rishtas will happen. They won't do any investigation. The reason I say any is because nobody called me. Nobody called Sadr Saab. The rishta happens. Things go sour. Then guess who they have to call? They have to call me. They have to call Sadr Saab. Help us figure out how to navigate the next steps. But I wish they had just called earlier. If they had called beforehand, maybe at least some blame you could put on me or Sadr Saab. But if you call afterwards, then we cannot assist there. Okay? So networking is key. Yeah, sorry.
Is it on the same topic or because we have?
No, hold on.
I have a question on the same topic.
Okay, Manoj, wait, hold on, please. Do you have more, anything else?
No. Any more questions?
Okay, let's, Sir Sab, Amr Malik Sab, and then after that you can speak.
Assalamu alaikum, Amber Malik Saiba, can you try speaking? We're gonna test this out and see if someone from Zoom can ask a question.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
No?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. It's not actually question, but it's relating to marriages. So I want to do it now. Like you are doing, I know we have so much content about how we arrange marriages and how we can keep it. But there is an other notion I notice it's taking place in our youth, and we don't have a solid answer like benefits and all those things, and that is cousin marriages. Our youth is also, because they are living in this culture, there is. And so can you upload something and solid reasons why cousin marriages are allowed in Islam and what are the benefits? I know, but we need something solid. And we know we need also to convey this message to our youth, because our youth is also affected by people around them, and they are thinking that cousin marriages are not good. That's my comments. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah, Sada Saiba. One point I forgot to mention earlier is in the shura proposal, because our parents have not had these honest conversations about marriage with their children, and they push them to delay it sometimes to 25, and then they bring somebody home kind of scenario. One of the proposal items is that at the moment a youth member turns age 18, the president and the missionary will visit the home and have a conversation with the parents and the child about what is to come. What is marriage? How does it happen? What the process is? Get a feedback from them directly and give them that counseling early on. Now, they don't have to get married right away, of course. 18 is young for most people, and that's okay. But we don't want to miss the opportunity of telling them the right way to do it, so that tomorrow they don't do it the wrong way and having to backtrack or have no idea at all. There are a lot of people who are just innocent and good-hearted. I got a call yesterday from a member of Canada Jama'at. The lady is now 40-something years old. And she said, I've tried for the last 20 years to find a rishta. I could not. I'm desperate at this point. Murabi Sahib, if you can find somebody, please help me. This is a ground reality. There are many. In fact, one of the prayers that beloved Hazur has on Eid, one of the prayers is, oh Allah, those girls who have not had a rishta because of, it's been so long now, ages have gone so much. Oh Allah, help them find a match. Our Khalifa has to make this prayer. While many of our boys, like I said, are going out to marry somebody, our girls are stuck here waiting and they don't know what to do. And vice versa. There are other issues as well. I'm just sharing this with you because the ground reality is we can't ignore that. Now, back to Sadr Sahiba's point, yes, cousin marriages is allowed in Islam. There's no doubt about that. But many of us have done this. And this is I'm just sharing with you. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can do it. But if our boys are here, the mothers and fathers will take them back to their home country, get them married to a cousin, and bring the wife here, which is nothing wrong with that. But we've never made the effort to look here. Now, what are our daughters going to do? Where are they going to look? So these are some ground realities. Our Jama'at is big enough now for us to be able to look here. We have amazing people. I have a whole list I make of eligible bachelors on the boys' side who are good, kind-hearted, vetted people. But so this notion that there are no boys here, they're all terrible, this and that is not true at all. And you can ask the General Secretary Saab, he's young, he knows everybody, Sadr Saab. There are a lot of people here, amazing. People, other Jamaat people are looking for rishtas here. But our own people are looking out. So it's the idea of the grass is greener on the other side. Go there, it's not greener. Look here. So just throwing that out there as well.
Jazakallah. And I know this is a very, very sensitive and even personal topic for a lot of people. And we're going to go to your question in just a second, but I wanted to add that in terms of education, the Rishta Nata department already does webinars. They used to be quarterly. I think they've been twice a year. And the title is Garments for Each Other. And I believe this question has been addressed in the past as well. Your question.
Yes, sir, please.
If you could use that microphone.
I could rephrase your question.
Manoj Chaudhary Saab has a question or comment.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. My short question is, and I have a follow-up that may take more time. What is the local Rishta Nata plan? I know it's all top down, but what is going to happen locally? We heard Tabligh is going to do something locally. I haven't heard what Rishta Nata department locally will do. Then I have a.
Okay. So, in terms of the local, I mean, this is a department that is more national than local. And that's why the local secretary is appointed, not elected. But in terms of the local, there is a recommendation to quarterly have some tarbiyat topic on Rishta Nata. And actually, in part of our report is to encourage almost monthly discussions on Rishta Nata. So in terms of tarbiyat, that's that's part, and it was one of the action plans. Tarbiyat department will help prepare workshops and general body meetings at the local level, ideally on a quarterly basis.
Can I add to that? Additionally, anybody who's age 18, we will visit their home. We'll have a conversation about marriage. Additionally, we have lists that we make on the least on the boys' side, where we then ask them and get how serious they are about Rishta, what their process is, how far they've moved along. We have a list of about 35, 40. And additionally, of course, there are facilitators on the women's side who also have their lists, and they try to encourage more and more people to sign up to Rishta Nata. And so obviously our challenge is where folks don't want to sign up. And so that becomes limited in the scope of the department itself, but the department's required to do a outreach within the Jama'at. What that means is that, for example, every time I give do a nikah sermon, I will share that with Secretary Saab and he'll report back to make sure we're having the discussion or how many nikahs are happening. Also, if there's any discussion about marriage at all, today, for example, it'll get reported. And so we're supposed to maximize the amount of times that we encourage people to join the Rishta Nata program. Our biggest challenge in the database is that there are a lot of girls who have joined and a lot of boys have not joined. It's a 2-to-1 ratio, and the ages are off, and the experience is off. And so that becomes some of the challenges that we have.
Jazakallah. The other thing is that you had shown us statistics and have quoted what Qada department and Amur Amma has said. And I believe it's 5% to 22%. What structure does Jama'at have when somebody goes and approaches from Rishta Nata candidates that I am seeking divorce? It goes directly to Qada, and Qada will, based on the merit of the case, will decide one way or the other. What's the counseling, reconciliation, and saving those marriages? Even 1% failure on Rishta Nata, with so much effort put in, is a tremendous failure. So I don't know if that was addressed in the plan. It is not addressed anywhere, and you don't have to answer it because it's not a Rishta Nata thing, but it is alarming that even 5% failure would happen.
Dr. Saab, just 1 second, just before you, sorry, just it adds to it. There was an additional question on the chat that was similar. So just to combine the two, they had said, hey, in your presentation, Jazakallah, was a great presentation on premarital counseling, but what about postmarital counseling? Is the department doing anything for that, as that is just as important as premarital counseling?
So that is the enhancement as part of this action plan. But one point of just clarification, I know Rishta Nata and Amur Amma, sometimes your question kind of overlaps both departments. So we are, historically been involved in getting you married, but not really involved anytime after the nikah, historically. So now that's changing, and we will be more involved in, wellness checks of marriages and so forth, and having counseling and more tarbiyat. But, when it enters that stage of Qada, it actually falls under more Amur Amma, and Rishta Nata is not directly involved. I don't know if there will be a role in that sense, but to preempt that, to prevent that from going down that road, there's this proposal, and it was one of the action plans, is to expand the network of these premarital counselors. I know Sadr Saab himself is one, and ideally build that trust with the couple so that they can intervene and help with that. So I hope that partially answers. And Rabbi Saab.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just going to chime in here as well. In the last, let's say, 3 to 6 months, I have assisted as a missionary at least 10 different couples that have been getting counseling regularly. This is something members may not know. The counseling can be once a week, can be twice a week, 3 times a week. It can go for hours. And then both are heavily involved and there's a follow-up with them and so on and so forth. So there are a number of activities that we do. Out of the 10, I would say 2 have ended in divorce. But like I said, some situations are inevitable that they're just not working out. They've had months of attempts where they've tried to recover or tried to resolve. And then there are instances when the counseling has gone so far where now it's a vicious cycle. It's a reoccurring situation. And that's when we then advise them to go to Muriama and then seek assistance further from that department. I'm just sharing that with you because if any family feels that they need assistance, they can reach out to Sadr Saab, they can reach out to myself, they can also reach out to Muriama. They do assist in all these things. Their job is not to process divorce paperwork, it's actually to help reconcile. Similarly, as Islam, as many of you may or may not know, and many younger folks may not know, that if the man wants divorce, it is referred to as talaq. If the woman wants divorce, it is referred to as khula. Whenever a man initiates divorce or talaq, he goes to the Muriama department. He, of course, has to inform them, get various signatures, fill out some paperwork, and then officially give that order or that paper to his wife. Then his wife has a period of 3 months as an iddat. 3 months that she will remain with him under his care, under his financial support. Obviously, if she's still in the same home. And during those 3 months, a reconciliation process can also occur. In fact, if they reconcile during those 3 months, they don't need to do a nikah again. They just continue their marriage. But if after the 3 months has passed, exactly 3 months, this is according to the Holy Quran, then they're officially divorced. And then if there is any reason that the wife needs, for example, financial assistance, or some of her rights have not been fulfilled, or there's children involved, then the matter goes to qaza. And then qaza, and there's some qazis here as well that are sitting in front of me, they then process a very thorough investigation and they go through great details of every single item that is raised. And then the qazi awwal will make his decision. And then his decision is not final, it's not in stone. If the family's either side chooses to appeal, they can appeal. Then it goes to the appeal process. And then it can reach to the highest courts, which are existing in Rabwa. And then they will make the decision. And then if even after their decision, you feel that you want to appeal, then it goes to Khalifatul Masih. I'm sharing that with you so you're aware of that. Now that's the process of divorce, but has some rights of the wife that are missing. If it is a case of khula, the wife will also write a formal letter to not a Muriama, but to qaza, Nazim qaza. She'll write an email saying, I would like to do khula with so-and-so. They will then start the process. They will then make sure that they have a court hearing where they process the official khula. And then whatever rights are hers. So for example, if a wife requests khula, she is not entitled to hakmer, except in the case where she was wronged. And if she can show and prove that she was wrong, she is entitled to everything, to the hakmer as well. Just making sure everybody understands that. So the general rule is that if she just doesn't like him and she has no legitimate reason to do the divorce, he is taking care of her financially, emotionally, spiritually, and she just doesn't like him, then she would not be entitled to the hakmer. She would have to forego it. But if, God forbid, he is a vicious person, he is not a nice person, he has done X, Y, and Z, and she can prove it, then the qaza will, in her favor, deem it necessary for the hakmer to also be given. And then if there are other situations of children and so on and so forth. So this is the Jama'at, mashallah, has a very robust system. This obviously assists you in avoiding, court fees and whatnot. There are also what they're known as representatives. They're missionaries that can be assigned to either side of the parties, and they'll assist representing their case, similar to like a lawyer. But the difference is, and beloved has recently introduced this, is that the representative has to be honest with his own party as well. He has to tell them, Islamically, this is true and this is not true. So when we go into this case, we're not going to lie, we're not going to cheat, and you may not have a strong hold on this argument because it's an idea of having an honesty on both sides. So this is the general system. Now, to the last point, what Mona Saab is mentioning is that even 5%, yes, it is sad. It should be a 0% rate. We are Ahmadi Muslims. We are supposed to be the best creation for all of mankind right now. So when we do have instances, of course, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that a divorce is a halal thing, but it's a disliked halal thing. So it can be done, it can be opted for, but it should be in a very extreme situation where you opt for it. And it should not be accepted anything less than that. Nowadays, some of our elders are, or some of our families are a little bit trigger happy, where they, immediately call and I want a divorce. I'm sick and tired of this person. And that's where Islam says that's not right. You have to do reconciliation. You have to give them a chance. And Jama'at will make you do that. We'll sit down with you. Sadr Sahib knows this as well. We'll sit down for days and hours and we'll put in the work to make sure that you both are serious about the decision you're about to make. I hope that covers some things. Go ahead, I can reiterate. Sure.
That the khula can be filed by the lady, and it's khula bil talaq that you mentioned about the dowry and all that stuff. Where is the reconciliation? I don't hear anywhere. But you just made a statement that Jama'at forces the reconciliation.
Correct.
Where is that in this process?
Which process? Talaq or khula?
And she's asking for talaq and wants the rights and all that because she perceives that she has been wrong.
Yeah.
My question is this: at what stage is the counseling and reconciliation effort comes in a situation like that?
I'll look into the exact procedural part of it. I don't recall right now, but yeah, that's what I was going to say. So, but there's a preemptive effort that's always supposed to be made. Whereas she's not supposed to wake up one morning and go to qaza, but she can. Remember that. The reconciliation is if, for example, there is a dispute among the two sides. Okay? But Islam honors the fact that a woman can just decide she does not want to be married, no questions asked. That's why when it goes to qaza, then it's no questions asked. There's actually a reason for that. Where there's a specific reason why she does not have to like the husband, and that's fine. Then she can process that. But obviously, the qaza will ask them, was there any reconciliation? Did you make an effort? And if she says no, then they have to honor that.
If the one party does not want to reconcile,
Correct.
then can that be khula bil talaq?
It can be khula, yes.
If one side, for example,
I understand what you're saying. To answer you, yes. A woman can decide she does not want to be married and does not want reconciliation, and then that's it. That can be processed.
I understand that. My question, maybe I'm not.
Oh, meaning with the hakmer, you mean?
Yes. Khula bil talaq, when one side, and it's the petitioner, refuses to reconcile and never approached anything and decide to file it.
Sure.
Is that falls into that Article 38, which talks about khula bil talaq?
I'll look into it further, but just not to give you the wrong information. But from what I understand is that even then, yes, because she has been wronged. She entered, 1 minute, she entered the marriage. She feels she's been wronged, right? And she can prove it. And she doesn't want to be married to this person anymore.
So you're right.
Okay.
And I don't want to make it a back and forth.
Yeah, of course.
But I think I want to articulate the question clearly because this has come to my knowledge. Affairs,
Sure.
that petitioner lady files a khula and refuses to have any reconciliation or counseling. She's entitled to khula.
Correct.
No doubt about it.
Correct.
But she then is not entitled to khula bil talaq. That's what my understanding is.
Okay.
And my thing is this, that these kind of disputes that they come in, then there is nobody in the process, which Rishta Nata department worked very hard to get it, that nobody in the process comes in as an elder of the Jama'at and says, hey, you need to back off, let's reconcile this. Remember, these issues are happening, that's why they have documented it.
Sure.
Then the young people and all those people go like this, I signed up for Rishta Nata, I did my marriage, all of a sudden this happened, I did not ask for any of this, then you're telling me that, oh, our system is better than the other system?
Yeah.
How is that possible?
That's fine. Their sentiments are their own. I'm not going to address their sentiments. They can have them because they haven't experienced the other outside world. They don't know, but that's okay. To the other point is you're feeling that it should not be honored. What I'm explaining is that if a girl gets married, she no longer wants to be with this person. She files for khula. The court, without question, says we will process your khula. You have no reason to be with this person. You don't like them. And your question is, well, why should she be given any rights if she's not willing to reconcile? And my point to you is that she was wronged in addition to her obviously not liking the person. why should she give the other person a chance for reconciliation? What if he's done something?
That's my question.
Because that's a longer discussion.
So, may I,
There are some qazis here. It's better you
Sure.
sit down with them and have that conversation. One standing right behind you.
another question?
First, we would come to the speaker, the microphone, please.
On kar lein ji.
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
I really appreciate different participants' efforts to make us aware of the problems. But my suggestion is that we should also be aware of not the solutions only, but we should be aware of the reasons why these issues come up. And we should do something for them not to happen, so that we increase our input. Now, I have the suggestions that all the Jama'at members, if they participate in the Jama'at Jama'at meetings, and they listen to the Huzur, what he says in different addresses, and particularly the Friday sermons, and also they participate in practical efforts that are being made by the Jama'at. And I do not like just to that we blame the Jama'at, or we put the onus on Jama'at only, but we should also realize our own shortcomings, and we should try to understand there are solutions that are available, that could be available, and Jama'at can make them aware of. And I've just suggested 2-3 things. We should participate. We should communicate to each other. We should listen to Huzur. These things will prevent us from having those problems. So how many of us are, listening to the speeches? How many of us are reading the Holy Quran, reading the Hadith, following, seeking guidance from these resources? They are great resources that we have. Khalifa al-Masih is with us.
Jazakallah. We have a question from the ladies' side.
Please.
Assalamu alaikum.
I'm surprised the ladies
Please
are
go
so
ahead.
quiet today. Please join the conversation.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Okay, so I think this is more of a question and related to the postmarital counseling and premarital counseling. I think mainly for postmarital counseling, I feel like there is a stigma in the Jama'at where, this is what my personal feeling is, okay? But I feel like I would never come to the Jama'at for postmarital counseling, not because obviously I don't agree with their ideals, but I feel like it's a confidentiality aspect. Like after you get married, especially in the first 2 years, a lot of the issues are very small. Like, they're little things that are blown out of proportion. And like sometimes they'll become a big fight and a party is calmed down, they'll be fine. But how, if you go to a licensed therapist, they have that confidentiality. If they break it, then they lose their license. Like, how would you do that? How would you control that within the Jama'at? Because so everyone's business is not going all over the place. Because I've experienced it multiple times where I have a friend or someone I know going through a divorce, and then a Qazi's relative knows all the details.
Are you married as well? Just
Yes,
curious. Okay.
yes.
If I break the confidentiality, I'll lose my license as well. Okay. What I mean by that is that beloved Hazur has said that a missionary must follow all the rights of confidentiality. In fact, legally too, a clergy-client privilege does actually exist. What we discuss becomes alone with the missionary and the parisher or whatever you call them. And so anybody who is doubtful about coming to the missionary, for example, then I can't help you other than you can ask the other 10 couples that you have no idea who they are right now, who do come to me regularly and get counseling. Nobody, I can guarantee you, not a single one of you has any idea who they may be. They're just regular active members who need counseling. And that's the point. And we not only spend, like I said, hours and days. I want to reassure any member here if they're struggling. And you're right, there's sometimes when you have smaller issues and you don't want to raise them and don't raise concerns and you have in-laws there and so on and so forth. And that's fine, that's okay. But there are other scenarios that do get more serious, or they can have a snowball effect, where it may be very insignificant at first, but lead to something way more serious later on. And so to prevent that, Beloved Hazur has said, in fact, he has instructed all missionaries, in young missionaries specifically, I don't know if I'm still young or any, but he has said that you should befriend the members of the Jama'at, specifically the younger ones, the Khodam, for example. He said so much so that they can fairly tell you their deepest, darkest secrets and then get your guidance and help to get out of it. He didn't say when you find out their deepest, darkest secrets, report them and get them kicked out. Nothing like that. He said, when you find out their deepest, darkest secret, you must have amanat, right? That trust. You cannot tell anybody. This is why we have those sessions, and General Secretary Sahab knows this as well, that whenever we have these youth sessions, they're very exclusive. People have a free reign to speak about whatever issues they have. It's a judgment-free zone, and we don't allow any of the youth to go out and tell their parents what they spoke about. So yes, if you do know ever in the future, and I'm asking any member here, that if you find out the case details of anybody who is a relative of a Qazi, please tell me. Your name will not be exposed. I will not tell anybody, but that will not continue to happen. A Qazi is not permitted under any circumstances to share any details of any case with anybody else other than the relative parties. This is exactly how we maintain that confidentiality and that trust that people should have. Beyond that, if somebody has some experience, I would apologize on behalf of myself or anybody else who may have not lived up to the expectation that we should be at. Most of us are volunteers, and so we can make some of those mistakes. But I assure you that, yes, you can go to a therapist and that's fine, but nobody will know your situation better than another Ahmadi. Who's going to know about your loyalty to Khilafat and your reliance on prayer and so many other elements, right? There's nobody else, unless, of course, which we're working on. There's a lot of Waqf that Beloved Hazur is asking to be licensed therapists, so that later on, as we grow as a Jamaat, we'll have licensed therapists in addition to what we already have in the Jamaat through missionaries and so on and so forth. So I think
If I can just add one thing, when I took this role and Sadr Saab was explaining this to me, one of the things that Sadr Saab emphasized was confidentiality, and periodically this has definitely been emphasized at the national level by Dr. Ahsan Khan Saab. But when it comes to post-marital counseling, the idea, at least in the action plan and the proposal, is that the same, post-marital, the same counselors that did your premarital counseling, ideally kind of do follow-up in the first few years of marriage. So there is a trust. So, but confidentiality is expected from facilitators and from the Ristanata secretaries, and this is emphasized by Hazur, and this also emphasized at the national level.
Exactly. We're done?
Oh, I know we're running out of time. There's a few other questions and comments.
Okay. Just to the comment that our sister made about the going to outside licensed marital counseling. In our Jamaat, there was a situation where the couple did go outside. So grass is not always greener on the other side. They spent thousands of dollars of their money. And what they told us that it was just somehow buying more time for the counselor. They were paying $100 an hour and sometime 2 hours, sometime 3 hours. So the couple spent a lot of money and when the counselors start talking or they ask you to speak, there's a meter ringing in the back, right? And you may think you're getting a counseling, but in reality, what it is, it's just simply piling up the bill. So then they came to the Jamaat, and Alhamdulillah, Jamaat helped them. Their marriage survived, or is still going through some obstacles, but there's a hope. So as Murabbi Sahab mentioned, they can go and they can sleep on that license side of things, that information will be confidential. Believe me, nobody has any desire to discuss this information with anyone else. This is the trust that has placed upon us by the Khilafat, by Khalifatul Masih. And that is a huge trust. That is the trust of God upon us. And although the Jamaat office holder do not have a license, but they are answerable to God and their Khalifa. Jazakallah.
There were two answers that National Secretary Isnata sent me. I just wanted to share as well. Fateh Qureshi Sahab, also your question, I completely forgot. I shouldn't have forgotten this, but National Secretary Isnata shared with me. There is a networking, so to speak, for children or for the children, which is Brother Hazur mentioned that we should be hosting meet and greet events at Jama'at programs. This was introduced by Hazur, which is that if an eligible bachelor or bachelorette are interested in marriage, they sign up for a meet and greet, and then they match their profiles, and then they sit down and have a conversation. They get to meet one another. So they have that, ability to gauge the other person to some extent. And so that does exist. It's held regionally, as well as West Coast Jalsa. We also have one for LA Jamaat. The other point that he was mentioning is that in this new Shura proposal, premarital counseling is also now going to, those who are doing premarital counseling will also start beginning to do postmarital wellness check as well. So it is also introduced.
Okay, Jazakallah. Go ahead and wrap up your.
Any more questions or comments? Or we're done.
Okay, no, please.
make this the
Yeah,
last
yeah, yeah. No. Ask the question, whatever that is.
Okay.
Are you gonna read it?
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, okay, I think this should be the last question on the Rishnata topic. The question is, in line with the previous conversation that we're having about coming to Jamaat and getting support and going through the counseling process. The question is, what do you have to say to parents who refuse to come to the correct resources because they are afraid of what people think? Like in general, they refuse to get help, outside help from issues in terms of matters that they have within the household.
You wanna answer this?
Sure. I've had many situations where youth or younger members will come to me, whether they're married or not, and they'll say that we have so-and-so issue, and we really need you to come to the home and help us resolve this issue. But our parents are refusing to let you be involved. What do we do? It is a challenge. I mean, I can't address it other than hope that the parents understand that whatever experience you may have had when you were younger is vastly different today. Beloved Hazur has personally been involved in making sure people understand, homes understand, that they should reach out for help. They should not assume that they can handle it on their own. And he has stressed so much on confidentiality that it's something that is very scary for us, even as missionaries, that we're so careful. Let me give you another example. Hazur has even gone to this extent. He has instructed missionaries that if one of the parties that are disputing one another invites you to their home, you cannot drink chai or water from their home, period. Think about it. Why? Why would Hazur go to that extent to give that instruction? He's saying you should not be swayed and they should not think they have swayed you, even to the extent of giving you water. And many people who know, who I'm very close to, may go through some marital issues before, like if we're friends and then all of a sudden there's an issue, it could be a Jamaat dispute. I will sit down with them and all of them know this. I will say from here on out, if I'm ever out with you, I'm paying for lunch because we're having a meeting of a Jamaat or something, and you will not pay for it because this is what Hazur's instruction is. You understand that. And if they don't agree, I said, then so be it. You can go on your own. I'm explaining to you why it's important to understand it's that detailed. So let's keep that in mind as we go forward. Parents, I hope, I wish that they could confidentially just have a conversation with me. But when they refuse to do that, things keep getting worse. I don't know what else to do but pray for you, and we all do. But there are times when you need help, please get it. Don't be hesitant. And I think that's the only advice I could give at this point. Write to Hazur, that's another thing. Write to beloved Hazur. At least tell him your problems. That's another way you can get assistance as well.
Okay, there's actually one more question that's come in. This is a great topic, alhamdulillah. It's from the Lajna side. So please, Lajna, if you could unmute yourself and go ahead and feel free to ask the question.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. So we have one member that's asking that, there was a trend where, oh, sorry, can you not hear me?
Can you allow them to ask the question? In case there's a
He
counter?
does not want to.
Okay.
But yeah, that's why I'm here. So then, so it's about the boys converting their wives. I think she was wondering that, is there a way that we can ask these boys, like, after a couple of years of marriage, of what they saw in their wife that they felt they couldn't find within the Jamaat, and then have an open discussion between the unmarried boys to just get an understanding, because we're seeing a lot of them follow in their footsteps, like without understanding the reasoning behind it, and just like providing that type of clarification.
No Ahmadi girl should feel inferior because of the decisions of some boys. There's nothing better than an Ahmadi girl, period. Okay, let's understand that first. Now, there are converts who become true Ahmadis. There's nothing better than them either. What we have to remember is that we may see them as a group, oh, they're a bunch of converts and they're not real sincere and so on and so forth, and that's not fair. And the reason I share that with you is because, again, there are instances what you're describing is 100% valid, where they convert for the sake of marriage. There's some names I see on lists, so-and-so name, never seen them, never know who they are, they never came back. Yes, those are those people that you're referring to, and I understand that. But I don't want us to add a stigmatism or a label to those who are actively coming, those who are active Ahmadis. And I'll give you a quick scenario of what happened in 2018. There was a missionary meeting with Beloved Hazur in person. And I had just came to America, I just come to New York City. And within the first 5 months, right before Hazur came, I was bombarded with all of these so-called shadi bads, right? These people who are doing bad, but for the sake of shadi. And I didn't know how to navigate it. I didn't know how to, I was new, and I was in the islands before this, just giving you a scenario of what I was going through. So in the meeting, I said to Beloved Hazur, what do we do about those people who do, bad for the sake of shadi? His instant response was, you do not know what's in people's hearts. Do not judge them. I took a step back, but I still had an inquiry. I still didn't know the answer. So I said, but Beloved Hazur, sometimes it is obvious. Sometimes they tell you that I just want to convert for the sake of shadi. What do we do about them? There, Hazur gave me this guidance, which I give to any couple that comes to my door. It says, by the way, I have somebody who's interested. And Hazur said that if you train them and you really expose them to Ahmadiyyat, give them that due time. They're already at the door. They're willing to listen. Give them the experience of Ahmadiyyat. He says sometimes they become better Ahmadis than their Ahmadi counterpart. And so that's the key point here. So there's 3 things I always tell anybody who calls me, a young person, Marabi Saab, I have somebody. Boy says, hey, I got a girl, whatever it is, right? What do I tell them? First, I say, look, we're not here to judge. But number 2, you have to give them the real experience of Islam and Ahmadiyyat. And I do. No convert will enter this door today and become an Ahmadi tomorrow. It's a 3 to 6 month process of immersing them into Ahmadiyyat. And you will see that. And after the 3 to 6 months, if they're not interested, I help them request permission from Hazur and do whatever else they need to do. But I will never allow somebody to force either their child or their spouse to become an Ahmadi, because that's not honest and that's not true. But the other part I do is the third part, which is Hazur said, they become better than their Ahmadi counterpart. Whatever book I give to the convert, I give it to the Ahmadi counterpart. They both have to read it. That's not fair. You expect somebody to become a true Ahmadi and you yourself have not. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is because the ground reality is that anybody who is experiencing this and going through this and seeing it, one, I want to make sure our girls never feel you guys are the best. And we have not acknowledged that through our action. We have gone out and we have married somewhere else. The boys have. And so now what do? How do we move forward? And so this is why the Istanata department is eagerly looking for solutions and working with it. But we're realizing that we have to start early. We can't show up at the door at 25 and 26 and 27. It's too late. And any parent who's here and you think your child will be fine until he turns 25, I assure you, it is not easy. I was in Jama'at and many people couldn't last till 25. There's all boys there, okay? Now throw that same person in the middle of, a university where they're surrounded by every single thing. And I'm not even going to share with the stats of how many, things happen in universities. So you yourself as parents, if one thing you take away today is go and have an honest conversation with your child. Ask them, what do you think about marriage? What's your idea? When would you want to do it? What's your wish list? And you will start to hear numbers and answers, if they're being honest with you, that are vastly different than what you expected. You thought you could wait till 25, he'll get a home and he'll get a job. And some boys will tell you, I want to get married tomorrow. and then you're gonna be, oh, chup kar, be quiet. But that's not the right answer. And I know this because Qaid Sahib himself is struggling with it. Me and him have met many boys, and they'll tell us honestly, we want to get married. Our parents don't want us to. They're telling us to do this and doing that. So again, back to the main point, we have to start early. This is why most of the shura proposal really addresses this. And mind you, the shura proposal had a committee of missionaries and Rishta Nata department and Tarbiyat department, presidents and secretaries from across the nation. They came up with this plan. So let's try to implement, inshallah, we'll see some success.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Inshallah, we'll try to do one more time, sometime in future as well. Next is Secretary of Finance. Okay, Jitala Sahab. Mahmood Sahab, you have a question? Aaj. Aap aake tayari kar lein apni. I think he's got a slide deck also.
Assalamu alaikum. I do not know if there is a time to talk about it, but my concern is about the graveyard. There are a couple of issues were brought in, and we older people are going to go sometimes, and there is nothing in forest land, there's nothing over there. And one has gone to Bashti, people who are Musi, where we are going to go to the other one. So anything about that, I thought maybe there is a time you have few minutes to fit it in, If not, then God knows when we will meet again.
Our response to this, Murabi Sahab.
Yeah, before he responds, शादी की बातें हो रही थी, अब आप चले खैर.
ठीक है. I'll give you a 1 minute or maybe less than a minute response, Mahmood Chaudhry Sahab. It is on top of the Jama'at administration's mind. This is not something that we have kind of forgotten about it. It is definitely important. Discussion have been done in the local Amla as well and at the national level as well. Allow me, there is a meeting that I'm in the process of scheduling. Let me make that meeting with one of the graveyard company. And then inshallah ta'ala, on our next general meeting or sometime soon, we'll discuss and I think we should give it a due time for this topic, inshallah ta'ala. So it's not forgotten. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So the topic I'm supposed to cover is the Shura subcommittee for finance, and this year I was a Shura delegate and I was also a member of their subcommittee too. Shura subcommittee basically deals with and all the discussions are usually about the budgets, income and expense budgets, and there's some administrative matters and stuff matters which comes through it. But there, in that discussion, normally there are some other things which are associated with budget. So first thing we started off with was the conversation about the wasiyat. It is a worrisome kind of a conversation because in 2005, Hazur Akhtar Sayyid Allah Ta'ala bin Nasr Aziz expressed his desire that मेरी ये ख्वाहिश है कि जमात के 50% लोग 50% of Jamaat earning members should become Musi. That was 2005, 20 years ago. And this was the target given to us that by year 2008, which was a centennial year for the Khilafat, 50% of the earning members should become Musi. Sadly, that number nationally at this point stands at 33%. Locally, it is about the same. Actually, I'll explain to you something at the end, but it's about the same. So what is keeping us to get to that point? One, what happened to our zeal of Smena Watana? Why are we so much I mean, if somebody think they're gonna become poor because they are paying extra 3.75%, take my word. Ask anybody who's a Musi. You are so blessed at the end that that number 10%, it does not matter at the end. Your life becomes really better. Your earnings are, mashallah, very much blessed. And so talk to another Musi. Jama'at is doing a lot of programs in that regard. And there were some suggestions in there, for example, educating the Jama'at members about the importance of wasiyat, highlighting and explaining the Nizam al-Wasiyat as a new word order to the Jama'at, distribution of book al-Wasiyat, collaborating with the National Department and auxiliaries to motivate members towards the Nizam al-Wasiyat. So that was one of the main, it was a 10-point discussion. It took quite a bit of time, but that was one of the issue. And local the Vasaya committee is working on these things right now, alhamdulillah, and they will, inshallah, try to convert as many earning members as possible to the Nizam al-Wasiyat. Part of the problem is, which just actually became into reality a couple of weeks ago here in Los Angeles, is the way we submit our budget. Or if we don't submit our budget, that becomes a problem. In Los Angeles Jama'at, we discovered there are 25 members who are, mashallah, earning members, but when they submitted their budget, they said they are non-earning, and so as a non-earning Musi, you basically pay $300 minimum a year, and that's all it. That's not the case here. They just said that they are non-earning when they were submitting their budget. When in reality, they paid their actual 10% or whatever their wasiyat was. I think in Los Angeles Jama'at, pretty much everybody is at 10% with the exception of one or two cases. So I'm so sorry. So when they submitted their budget, and these are the 25 members, and they are paying on an earning rate, but they declared themselves as a non-earning. So if we look at those 25, if we add those 25 back into the earning member category, the Los Angeles Jama'at right now is at about 39%. Another bigger problem is the members, for some reason, are very hesitant to submit their budget. Last year, last couple of years, we've been struggling very much, and this number, we have. I'm going to go over some of the numbers with you in a minute, but we have some 1,100 some members in the Jama'at who should submit their budget. These are all the people who are over the age of 15, yet they don't submit their budget. And so that number last year, I believe, was 433 are the members who submitted their budget. This year it got a little better. We're about 570, I believe. But still, there's a lot of room for improvement. So that was the second portion of the concern, that why members are not submitting their budget. And then in a minute, I will share some numbers with you, and you'll see even though they're not submitting their budget, they're still paying, alhamdulillah, their chanda jar. What is the hesitation of submitting their budget? That's the second part of the discussion, which was another, as I said, it was pretty time-consuming, but there was a lot of ideas going back and forth, about the making sure that every member of the Jama'at who's over the age of 15, they must submit their budget. And if you're not earning, you're not earning. That's as simple as that. Lastly, I do want to bring into your attention that there was a proposal from one of the Jama'at last year that the funeral expenses in this country are getting kind of out of hand, and when this thing happen in any family, the current funeral expenses for Ahmadis, which are a lot better than some non-Ahmadis and non-Muslims, is upward of a $12,000 to $15,000 you have to come up for the burial and those type of expenses. Not everybody has that much extra money tucked away, and so especially for a blue collar person who's not going to ask somebody else to help, it becomes a real issue for them at that time. And you're dealing with a loved one's passing, and B, you're dealing with a financial issue at the same time. So as a part of this subcommittee report, the request was sent to Hazur Akhtar Sayyidullah Ta'ala bin Aziz, and Hazur graciously accepted it and approved it for Los Angeles, for US Jama'at. Proposal is that every earning member of the Jama'at should pay maybe about 25, at the minimum $25 a year towards a fund called funeral fund or funeral expense fund. And Azurek this approved it. We do have this fund created now, and it is part of the General Secretary, sir, if you could go to the Chanda portal for me, please. It is part of the Chanda portal. Again, this is whatever you want to participate in, but it doesn't have to be a large amount. But keep in mind, you want to do about $25 a year. $2, $2.50 a month probably is what this comes down to. So if you go on the portal and you go into the other donation category and you go all the way down where after design project and after just before the MDS scientist, there is a funeral fund on the portal. So I would humbly request, I'm pretty sure we will remind the members again, but this fund is to help anybody who is having difficulty in that area. So if you can, this is will be another sadaqah on your behalf. Please do participate in it. I do want to share a few numbers with you, which I hope will be food for thought for you, and also let you know where we stand and where we need to be. Let's start with the budget submission, and this is where, as I said, we're having a lot of challenges there. That why members are not submitting budget. So the members over the age of 15 who should have submitted their budgets in 2013, that number was 1,116. In 2024, the year just ended, that number became 1,142. The actual budget submission from earning members in 2023 was 386 out of 1116. This year, that number is the year just ended was 432. From the submitted members, the members with the payment, last year that number was 333. This year it becomes 380. There's little improvement in there, but we still have a long way to go. From the submitted members with no payments, last year that number was 53. This year that number is 52. The total chanda payers, members who paid any amount of chanda or who paid, they did participate in chanda aam, chanda wasiyat, or just salana. That number last year was 505. This year is 580, and our tajneed in the Los Angeles Jama'at is over 1,400 right now. And member with payment and with no budget. These are the members I'm talking about. Last year, 168 members did not submit their budget, yet they paid their chandajat. This year, they just ended, 211 members did pay the chandas, but did not bother to submit their budget. So when you do this right here, you and everybody, I don't know, again, we need to overcome these challenges, and we need to overcome, what's keeping us to get there. But when you do this, you are hurting the local Jamaat for the expense in the expense areas. So when the budget is submitted, and let's say that Los Angeles Jamaat is at million, 2 million, whatever the number you want to put on it, and so only so many members put it submitted their budget, and the expenses which is going to be allowed for the local use is going to be based on that number you submitted. So if that number is only 1 million, and the actual number is twice as that, then you're not going to get those expense dollars for the local Jamaat. So I do request all brothers and sisters to please, let us know what your hesitation is. And when the Chanda portal is open right now, even and it will stay open till maybe October or mid-October or so. And then even after that, you can submit their budget. You can change your budget. This year, I believe, if I'm counting it correctly, if I'm estimating it correctly, there was over close to 100 members who requested budget adjustment. Not a problem. Just send me a small note. Just send me an email or text, and that budget can be adjusted. It can be adjusted several times during the year if you don't feel that you're going to be able to meet that number. Let me break it down by the auxiliary, how we did as far as so the earning member per system. Again, now this is only I can only go by with what the members, what the system shows right now. Last year, that number was 490. This year was 510, little bit improvement. And earning members with the donation, in the year 2023, that number was 343. This year is 383. With no donations, these are again earning members I'm talking about, 147 last year, 127 this year. In SAR, we have 295 Ansars in this Jamaat. I'm sorry, 299 Jamaat members in this Jamaat. And the members with payment, that's 198 last year and 216 this year. Members with no payment last year was 97, this year is 83. Khudam Alhamdiyah, 291 members is what their needs is as per the system is. 90 Khudam showed up with payment. 120 Khudam showed up. That was last year, and this year it was 120. Members Khudam Alhamdiyah with no payment, without payment. Last year that number was 185. This year number is 171. Lajna, we have 570 total members in 587 in Los Angeles area. 202 were with the payment last year, 231 this year, 368 with no payment last year, and 356 with no payment this year. And our tajneed as of last year, July 31st, was 1372. Our tajneed this year, as of July 1st, is 1412. I'm just giving you these numbers right here, just as a food for a thought, and see where we stand right here, where we need to be. And lastly, just for the numbers purpose, I'm going to mention that in 2018 or 2019, when these 4 Jamaats were merged, Alhamdulillah, we are in these last 4 or 5 years, we are not only doubled our Chanda collection, we are at 130% right now. Alhamdulillah, summa alhamdulillah. Just one second.
This one nearby.
This is the number, yeah, these are the numbers I was just talking about it. Are we showing?
1 second.
Here you go. These are the actual numbers. In 2018, that was just under $1 million. And last year, the one we just closed, it was 2.239 million. So Alhamdulillah, we're showing lot progress. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. Our total collection this year was better this year by 204,000 compared to last year. And I will go ahead and take any question if somebody has creams up.
Or one suggestion and a question. I've been asked on numerous times, I think with the needs of, what you just mentioned, the issue, we're like 60% people are not reporting their income, right? So what I've heard and what has come to my attention, mentioning, a lot of even Jama'at as well as the other elders or Ansar have one issue, and that issue is they are afraid that what they do submit their budget and numbers, it was a twofold concern. One primary was that they don't want the whole world to know about it, how much money they're making. They don't want the kids talking about it, they don't want the parents knowing about it. Confidentiality is a major 90% issue that I have asked, and just generally, what is the issue? I mean, I discussed this with the name talk. So that one concern they're worried about that everyone will know about. How and what answer can you give to that? But secondly, you already addressed it, that if they do something and say, look, we're gonna pay $10,000 this year, and then God forbid something happens to the business or they lose their job, you have just said that it just takes either a text or a simple email with a note, and you'll be able to do it. If you can confirm and assure everyone that it will be as easy as that, I believe that would also encourage a lot of them saying, okay, now that's the case, then my budget is X. But if something happens, they'll know, they'll just send an email to Tala Saab or Finance Secretary and have that change. So can you address the confidentiality as you just said in a more elaborate fashion? I think that would help everyone in the US.
I'll share the question first. They may not have heard on Zoom. The question is twofold. Our Khuddam, let me know if the question is correct. Our Khuddam have two types of fears, which is why they hesitate to submit their budget. One is the fear of confidentiality. Basically, whatever their income is, people will know about it. And the second fear that they have is that they cannot change it once it's written down.
So the answer to the second question is more easier one, and that one is no, budget is not written, engraved on a stone. It can be changed anytime.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example of that. The 2020, when the COVID started, and a lot of members, they had kind of a real uncertainty about, if they're going to have jobs, if they're going to have any income, and, I remember there was a one member who changed his or her budget 5 times during the year. No problem. No problem. As I said, just last month, in the month of June, I have received almost close to about 100 requests for members who said that they're not meeting their budget, and we don't ask why. And yes, this is my new number, and this is what your new budget is. That's very simple. Confidentiality, I 100% agree with you. And we don't share those numbers with anybody. We don't even share those numbers with the Amla members. Who's gonna know about that number? It'll come to me. And I have no choice not to open that email or that text. I have to see it. Sadar Saab will see it, and your Halka Secretary Finance will have opportunity to see it, and even that sometimes they don't even want to see it, or they don't even want to share see it.
And I will see it.
And Rabbi Sahib will see it. Ji.
One second, wait 1 second. Let me address the other part of it. You mentioned in the beginning, Khuddam have a fear, and there are two fears, which is why they do not submit their budget. I think the premise of the question or the statement is wrong. The Khuddam do not submit the budget, not because of a fear, because they're unaware that they have to submit a budget. That's the reality, the ground reality. We had 420 members submitted from 1,100 last year. We were able to, with every force of every tool we could use, we brought it to 580. Vast majority of which are young people who did not submit it. And the reason I say that is because even if you have no income, you're expected to submit it. It's supposed to be a spiritual practice. That means, 60% did not exercise the spiritual practice. And all they had to do was write 0. They did not have to write a number. They could have wrote 0. I make no money. No problem. They did not. Okay? The other part of it is that you say that they're fearful of confidentiality about their income. And Amir Sahib has said this 100 times. I'll say it again. When you apply for a credit card, what do? You disclose everything. You buy a car, you tax return, whatever it is, right? And yes, some people are not honest. And they should reflect and think and reassess themselves. Are you truly an Ahmadi? If you're not being honest to a government or credit card or whatever that is. Because we have to be honest no matter where we write that number down. And there are instances when I tell somebody, hey, write down your income. And they're like, which one do you want? What kind of answer is that, right? But this is the reason. They say, well, who's going to see it? Is it going to be an email document? Is there going to be email response to me? I don't want any, trace of it. This is a challenge. That person should reevaluate their tarbiyat standards, their morality. Really, being honest, number one. Number two, if they're afraid the whole world's going to find out, who? Me? You know what I mean? If they have that fear. I'm saying just let's say, right? Worst case scenario, they have this fear, the Jama'at people will find out. If Allah has blessed you, then what's the big deal? And if you're struggling, also what's the big deal? We'll pray for you. But to Jatala's point, we're not publishing it here. We're not going to post it here. Even AMLA members, we do not share, not because they don't have the right to, but we don't want to bring it to that. Why bring it to a room of 30 people who don't need to see that information? Only the people who need to see it are finance secretaries, myself, again, for tarbiyat purposes, and Sadasab for administrative reasons. Ji.
Ji.
I want to know about. I just want to know about the fund that you mentioned, $25 at least per year for the funeral, right? First of all, does Jama'at recommend the insurance for the final expenses that's available? Because why I am raising this point is that, yes, $25 we can pay, but at the end, whoever from the Jama'at need that fund will be embarrassed while applying for that. I am asking for the help from Jama'at for these expenses, right? Okay, so if was that discussed in the Shura meeting that the availability of, insurance that can help Jama'at members? I mean, if you are paying $25 every month, everybody from that will get the benefit of that, right? Why I'm asking this, just as an experience, that, sometime, yes, the confidentiality is being discussed a lot, but some people are embarrassed to give an application to Jama'at for something, for help, because they know that it will be leaked out anytime, right? That this person did that, right? So I have an experience that, Fitrana, let's say Fitrana, we call Jama'at Sadr as a father of Jama'at, right? So Fitrana was already given by the Sadr or Murabbi to some person who need it. When we have centralized it, that we send the names and National Jama'at will send them check, I have the experience that some people refuse to accept that check because they think that we are not, Fitrana recipient that way, right? So my issue is when we make it more centralized, that $25 we are collecting, and then somebody, and then there will be obviously some criteria also to pay that money to that person who need at that time. So was that discussed? And Murabbi Sahib, is it that life insurance is recommended by Jamaat?
Yes, sir.
Jazakallah. Jazakallah, respected Siddiqui Saab. You raised 3 points. Number one, the access to funeral funds. Number two is how do we know if somebody needs funds for the funeral purposes in the Jamaat? And the third is the centralized payment of fitrana. Did I miss anything?
Yes.
This is all? Okay. Insurance also. Okay. Insurance for the purpose of burial is valid. We had a meeting some time ago. We did talk about it. This is not life insurance, it's for burial insurance purposes. And as we know in LA Jamaat, the expenses can go as high as for $20,000, depend upon the circumstances. And we looked into it. You can always look into it, it's a few $100s a year that you pay, and the benefits are, 50,000 or something. And that's definitely available to all the Jamaat members. They can choose their own, whichever company they want to work with. That's fine. Regarding the funeral, we do know that Jamaat members will not ask for it. As you know, the responsibility of the administration is to keep their eyes and ears open. We discussed that in the local Amla as well, not for the fitrana purposes, for any purposes for that matter. And as your previous Jamaat Sadr, as you know, it is the responsibility of the administration to seek out that situation. How do you do it? By contacting people, by staying in touch with people, giving the power of the everyday Jamaat members to let the administration know if there is a member in the Jamaat who needs help or she needs help, right? So that communication is open. Alhamdulillah, Jamaat helps everybody to the best of their ability. In LA Jamaat, I can speak for many members. I'm not going to name it. As of yesterday, Alhamdulillah, Jamaat is going to help a member pay for their school. So that person can go and finish the school and become a good member of the society and the Jamaat. Now, I'm going to once again say that, please let the Jamaat administration know. If you feel that that person needs help or she needs help, let us know. And inshallah ta'ala, the local administration will do the best it can, and it has been doing it. It's not like this administration, every administration. Amir Saab, mashallah, has been very cooperative. He's always given us the special attention when we ask for the money for the member of the Jamaat. Funeral fund the same way. If we know that the family is not going to be able to afford, call goes to Amir Saab right away. There was one incident in the Jamaat, a person passed away, and before anything happened, we knew about it, that this person is not going to be able to afford it. This was about 3 years ago. Call went to National Secretary Finance. National Secretary Finance called Amir Saab, and right away we have, within 1 hour or 2 hours, everything was ready to go. Second thing is, the third thing is about the fitrana. Jamaat is mashallah growing, right? Yes, we could issue the check locally. We don't have a budget for fitrana at the local level, as you know that. The money comes from the national headquarters. There is a list that is compiled. Amla member knows about it. We discuss it. Anybody can give a name to that list. That list is added. There's a list that I have confidentially myself, which I collect the names from the members. Anybody can give me a name. I'm not going to say only a certain person is authorized. If you feel that this person deserves fitrana, let the Jamaat know. You don't have to let me know. You send an email to Amir Saab, or you send an email to National General Secretary Saab or Murabbi Saab or anybody. Names will come to the local Jamaat. The name will be added to the spreadsheet. We will add the relevant information, for example, address, right? A lot of the time, these checks are mailed to the person. Very few times when we know that this person will not be able to check the mail, then the checks are sent locally. Alhamdulillah, in LA Jamaat, over probably, I would say 60 people were given fitrana last year. And only person who knew about it was the Jamaat Sadr, maybe Secretary Finance, maybe. And, we kept it very confidential. But every Amla member knows that they can, and every Jamaat member knows that they can put a name in there. Nobody from LA Jamaat refused it. Okay. Now, I've seen that they have taken the money, but they went ahead Like the example of one of the member of the, I was reading in Al Fazl a few days ago. In Al Fazl, there was a story of an old UK convert. I'm forgetting his name. When the Jamaat gave him, Imam London of that time, when gave him the fitrana money, he right away gave that money back to the Jamaat in other muds, for example, Chandam or Chanda Wasir. So those people may have done something like this, but which is fine, but they have not refused it. So Jamaat does to the best of their ability, takes care of those people. And once again, Jamaat mean we all are Jamaat. It's not me or Murabbi Sahab or Secretary Finance. Every member is powerful enough in this room to make identification and say that this person in our Jamaat is sleeping hungry or went to sleep hungry. That is a big, big problem for us. Hazrat Umar Farooq used to walk in the streets, right? We don't have that system, but every one of us has that opportunity. You become the right hand or left hand of the Khalifatul Masih Nizam and him, and tell the Jamaat that this person needs help, and Jamaat will do help, inshallah ta'ala. To whatever, I mean, Rishta Nata is one of those examples, right? Funeral is another example. Many, many examples. Murabbi Sahib himself has dedicated his life to serve us. So that's the blessing of the Khilafat and the Nizam. But the Jamaat Nizam can only work better if the Jamaat itself cooperate and be part of that. Do you want to add anything?
No.
There was an email to the local Sadran, basically from the National Secretary Finance, and that's what it says exactly, that you have to seek out those people who needs help. And I cannot do it alone. Jazakallah.
Any other question? Ji.
I think Ansari Sahib had a question also. Ansari Sahib was first. Ajay, please.
Assalamualaikum. I just wanted a little more clarification about whether any guidelines were provided by the Shura subcommittee as to who qualifies for the funeral fund, or is there going to be a system of checks and balances, developed by a local Jamaat or at the national level, so the system is not abused,
Yeah. Definitely, Jamaat always have checks and balances. It's a chanda money. Chanda money is not thrown in, trash. Office holders are 100% responsible for spending the Jamaat money. I don't think we discussed in that particular detail in the Shura subcommittee. However, it's an administrative matter, and as an administrative matter, it will be dealt accordingly. The procedure is that, as I said, I give you an example. The call went to the National Secretary Finance. And the reason the call went to National Secretary Finance is because he's supposed to know about it. And then I did not call Amir Saab. The National Secretary Finance called Amir Saab because maybe there's a confidential information that they want to discuss. And so checks and balances there, the funeral expenses are available. Once again, if there's somebody that needs help, Jamaat will take care of it, inshallah ta'ala.
Any question from
Musa
ladies?
Saab, I think has.
Oh, sorry.
Ladies, if you have any question, please. We're almost at 2:00. Go ahead.
My question is about the wasiyat. The problem that people are facing for submitting their budget is like very recently that I got to know that there's a lack of definition that people don't know what's the wasiyat earner means in wasiyat department. Very recently that I got to know is like, even if you're getting the Social Security comes under earner, your earner if you're getting a Social Security as well.
Yeah.
So that understanding of definition, I would say that would be very nice.
This was raised a few days ago. We had the National Shura subcommittee meeting. Jatala Sahib was there, and I brought up this point in there, and I informed Chairman Subcommittee Dr. Munam Naeem Sahib. So he knows about it, and Secretary Vasaya National Dr. Khalid Datta Sahib was informed as well. So I'm hoping that we will receive some kind of information from there. Clarity on it, inshallah.
But as a general guideline, if you have any source of income, okay, and that can even include a babysitting. If you have any source of income, you are classified as a earner, not non-earner. So if you have Social Security is your earnings. Or if you have even if you have money coming from 401k, and if you did not pay the chanda when you were putting into 401k, money coming out of the 401k is also earning. So it's any bit. Simple answer is that if you have any kind of money coming into you, whatever the shape and form, it is earning. G.
Like parents give their kids.
For the training sake, because I would definitely encourage the youngsters to pay chanda out of that. But that's another very valid and very good point you brought up. And I would humbly request especially all the parents, teach your children from day one that once they start earning any kind of money, whether it's a part-time job or full-time job, have it installed in, just like we teach them that you need to do a 5 times salat. You have them put it in their mind from the day one that you also need to pay your chanda before you make use of that money. So chanda needed to be paid, and if we install that in our youngster, it will be better for them. In Holy Quran, anytime the word waqimu salata, the very next verse, most of the cases is watu zakata. You spend on the way of Allah. So if our faith requires us to participate in it, we should, and that's those, in my opinion, and I could be totally wrong on this one. I'm sure Murabbi Sahab can explain a lot better than that. But if we have two things going for our youngsters, that we have them attached to the masjid and they come for the regular congregation prayer or the Jama'at activities, and they pay their chanda, inshallah, they will be a very productive member of the Jama'at.
Sure.
Ji.
Is there any plan on adding, alhamdulillah, the online portal is very helpful in paying your chanda and also the budget submission. Is there any plan down the road where the auxiliary budgets or chanda payment can be in the same portal or at the same time that they're making these payments, even though it can go to the different auxiliaries? So that there's because there might still be a lot of confusions about, I paid my chanda, but auxiliaries weren't paid on both sides, on Sarah or with them.
Quick answer to that. No, there is, and there's a good reason for it.
Yeah, I'll give you the long answer, which is the good reason behind it. The reason why auxiliaries were created was that whenever the Jamaat has a gap, the auxiliaries can fill. So this is why Beloved Hazur has instructed that the chandas should not be the same, the portal should not be, even that the Janeed should not be the same, because there'll be times when Khuddam will have a better up-to-date Tajneed, and they can then support the Jamaat, or vice versa. The Jamaat might have something better, they can support the auxiliary. But the moment you combine them, then the gaps will continue to exist. So the auxiliaries actually exist to help fill gaps whenever necessary. So they won't be combined, they'll never be on the same portal, never be in the same place for that reason.
Also, to the same point, if I may request, this is a tarbiyat matter, educational matter for all auxiliaries as well, and especially the members of the auxiliaries. A lot of time we get this when we approach, especially a young person, that have you paid your chanda? Last month was a good example. We were making so many these calls, and the answer is yes, I have paid my chanda. I am looking at your record and I don't see anything in here. Say, are you sure? When did you pay it? And they say, yeah, I pay every month. From the $5 goes to from my bank account to Khuddam Amdiya, or whoever it goes to. Do let them know, please. Please, again, it's a tarbiyat matter. Do let them know that the Jamaat chanda system, chanda is a mandatory chanda. You need to become MD first and then become a member of your auxiliary.
Okay, Jazakallah. Any other questions? Okay, good. Let's conclude with dua, please.
Jazakallah, please join me in silent prayer. Ameen. Allahumma ameen.
Secretary Sahib has an announcement to you. Maz, and then we come outside.
Gee, so, do we want to do namaz now? Food? Yeah, okay, well, let's do namaz right away. If those who need to do wuzu, please quickly do wuzu. We'll call us on. Right after namaz, there'll be a quick Ameen ceremony, followed by a delicious lunch in the langar, inshallah. Jazakallah.
Please.